Good evening, muy buenas tardes a todos. Welcome, and we want to thank each of you for joining us today in your chambers. And we are the Watsonville City Council. We are here to serve each and every one of you who's here today and those watching us at home. And I'd like to welcome back my colleagues. We've had a long extended break. I hope you've been able to rest, meet with your constituents, and just, enjoy the nice weather that we've been having thus far. And before we begin, I just would like to remind anybody that needs translation services that we have devices here to my left that are available to everyone. Para todo aquel que ocupe un aparato para traducir, para poder seguir la conversación, los invitamos a que vengan por favor aquí a mi izquierda a recoger un aparato. Se lo cuelgan aquí en el pescuezo, se ponen el aparato aquí, ponen el canal 0 y pueden seguir la conversación del concilio. And if anybody needs an agenda, they're in the front when you walk in. They're available in Spanish and in English. Para todo aquel que ocupa una agenda para seguir la junta, por favor, los invitamos. Pueden recoger una al frente. Están disponibles en español y en inglés. And before we move any further, I would like to ask everyone to just, for a moment of silence for Rhea de Hart. She recently passed away, and if any of you got to meet Rhea de Hart, you would know that Rhea loved Watsonville, she loved her community, and she dedicated her life to public service. And so if we can just have a moment of silence to remember her and to appreciate everything she did for our community. Thank you. And so we begin our meeting. I'd like to remind everyone to please respect and civility above all else. We don't have to agree 100% with everything that's said today, but we do need to be respectful towards each other, and we need to be civil towards each other. Anyone who's looking to address City Council will be asked to fill out a blue card and to leave it on the podium after you come and speak. If you challenge any action appearing on this agenda in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public meeting described on this agenda or in written correspondence delivered to the city clerk prior to or at the public meeting. And so we will move on to item 2 on the agenda, information items only. I hope my colleagues have had time to review them and look them over. Rebecca?
Yes. I had a question regarding miscellaneous documents. It shows that there's 4 alcohol license applications, and I just wondered how long the process was going to take to approve or deny the applications.
Mr. City Manager?
Councilmember Garcia, Director Miriam has stepped out of the room, but we can get an answer for you on how long it'll take for this.
Okay. And at the time when it's approved, does it have to, I don't remember if it comes back to the council for further discussion or not. I don't remember.
Depends on what type of licenses they are. If they're associated with a use permit, they would come back, possibly on appeal. And if they're not, they could be handled administratively by the staff.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Kaufman-Gomez?
Yes, there are several items that are over my threshold, and I just want to make sure that the public is aware. The water treatment plant, there's some chemicals there. It's been from a vendor that's already been existing and bid on that project, so we're spending $448,000 for that. I do have questions about item D. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about that.
Are you on the consent agenda?
Yeah, we're not there yet.
We're on the miscellaneous information reports only.
Okay, I'm ready.
You're ready to go. All right. Welcome back to you, Councilwoman Kaufman-Gomez. So any other questions or concerns you have about these reports, we ask you to please send them to the city manager, to the appropriate department. We will move on to item 3, the roll call. Before we do the roll call, I always like to have my colleagues introduce themselves and let the public know what part of the city you represent. So we'll start with Councilwoman Parker and make our way back this way.
Hi, my name is Ari Parker. I represent District 7, which begins out on East Lake, the gateway to the Paro Valley with the East Lake Shopping Center. We also include Ansoto School, McQuitty School, and Vista Montana, as well as all the senior villages, and a lot of the area down East Lake up until Beck Street, and in front of and up to Rogers Street, and you can see it there. An exciting and happy place that's growing right now.
Thank you. Councilman Hurst?
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thanks for recognizing Ria de Hart, the Lion of Pajaro. I also live in the gateway to the Pajaro Valley. That's District 3. The airport is a prominent fixture there, 330 acres. Ella's Restaurant, Beer Mule, the Animal Shelter, the hospital, Pajaro Valley Health Trust, Safeway, the Freedom Post Office, Wishbone, and Rite Aid. We also have Home Depot and Monument Lumber in District 3, Rolling Hills Middle School, Freedom Elementary School, senior residences of Paloma del Mar and Pajaro Vista, Green Valley Village Mobile Home Park at 501 Green Valley Road, Colonial Manor Mobile Home Park on Airport Boulevard, Freedom Mobile Home Park on Freedom, and Monterey Vista Mobile Home Park on Home Road. We also have Hangar Way, you've heard of that. They have wine, cider, beer, and telescopes. Hidden Fortress Coffee is in District 3, along with Fox Shocks Racing. And let's never forget the Freedom Bakery or the California Grill. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hurst. Councilman Hernandez?
My name is Felipe Hernandez. I represent District 1, which is basically most of downtown, all of through Main Street, all the way from the Target Shopping Center, all the way up to the Pajaro Bridge, and then everything westward. So all the up through Ramsey and Ohlone, all the way up to the bridge.
Thank you. Councilman Gonzalez?
Hi, my name is Aurelio Gonzalez. I represent District 2, which is also the gateway to the Pajaro Valley. It comes in from Main Street and on Riverside Avenue. It gets the best entrance. But in my area, I do have Trejo's Carnitas is now open again. We're all happy on that one. Romo's Car Sales, also on Riverside Street. The Hole in the Wall, El Frijolito, is in my district. I also have the Watsonville Senior Center. I have El Pueblo, that's also off of Riverside. And I have a Van Shoe Store that relocated to 260 East Lake Avenue. So they didn't leave, they just downsized. So they're still there and available to help you out with any kind of shoes that you'd like. I have the Watsonville High School, the Linscott Charter School, Santa Fe Mercado, and the best restaurant, I think, in the city of Watsonville, Miyuki's.
Thank you.
Now I'm really jealous as everything has come down my way. I'll go with a little bit of history. My name is Trina Kaufman Gomez, and I am the representative for District 6. Historically, District 6 was the second part of the annexation within our city limits that happened somewhere maybe about 100 years ago. I know that my home is from the 30s, so I know that it was the early 1900s that annexation took place. Unfortunately, I've just got the one school, which is H.A. Hyde, and a Floodberg Park, which is a very tiny little park, and I hope that some of you out there were able to enjoy the movie that we had in the park for free this last Friday. We had Dumbo playing, which I'm trying to make sure that our little community park gets used and that our Parks and Rec recognize that our community members would like to join that park. I also go all the way down on the east side of the Freedom Boulevard corridor, so that means the Crestview Shopping Center, go all the way down and wrap around where Taco Bell comes around the corner and the old hospital. So I've got quite a bit there, as well as the county streets, the Santa Clara, Marin, Alta Vista, those kind of streets that are over in that pocket of town. So I sort of scoop around on the other side of Freedom Boulevard for that area there. And don't have quite the pleasure of all of the fine restaurants and the welcome entrance sign into the city here, but we do have a bit of history in my district there, and it would be where I'm from. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilwoman Garcia?
Rebecca Garcia, I'm District 5, and my district starts across the street from St. Patrick's Church on Main Street, and you follow it all the way down to Clifford. It goes over to Freedom, to Lincoln, to East Lake, and back on Sudden. I have Starlight School, Cesar Chavez School, EA Hall, Minty White schools. And in terms of businesses, I have the Nob Hill Shopping Center. And my favorite store there is, of course, the Michoacana, where I can go buy Mexican ice cream. And if you haven't tasted a Mexican ice cream, I recommend it to you.
Thank you. My name is Francisco Estrada. I'm the representative for District 4 and the gateway to the Pajaro Valley. And I also have the honor of being the mayor for the city of Watsonville. And as you can see on the map, I have the sloughs, which I'm very proud of, and I'm proud of the work that we do to maintain them. I have part of Ohlone Park, Green Valley Road, the high school, cinema, part of Freedom Boulevard. I got Clifford. Anybody here from Clifford? My peeps? No? All right. And we go back down to Ohlone. And so thank you for that. And if we can get an introduction from our city staff, and if you could let the people know what your role is here.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Huffaker. I'm the city manager here. You can't tell that we're not passionate about food tonight. The updates are making me hungry. But I have the pleasure of serving the city council and representing the community and overseeing the day-to-day operations of the city.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney.
My name's Alan Smith. I'm the city attorney. I advise the council on legal affairs, and I'm one of the 3 people who work directly for the council.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
I'm Beatrice Flores. I'm the city clerk. I work for the city council. I support them with the legislative process. I'm also a filing officer for campaign statements and the elections officer and many other functions for the city.
Thank you. Okay, now we're ready for roll call.
Kaufman Gomez. Garcia.
Here.
Gonzalez.
Present.
Hernandez.
Here.
Hurst.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Estrada.
Here. Thank you. Moving on to item 4, Pledge of Allegiance. I think I saw a Boy Scout come in.
There we go.
No?
Come on
Shaking
down.
his head.
Come on down. It's part of your merit badge.
All right.
All right.
If we could please stand.
Microphone up here for you.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Hello.
Whenever you're ready.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, we move on to item 5 on the agenda, presentations and oral communications. This time is set aside for members of the general public to address the city council on items not on the agenda, which is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. No action or discussion shall be taken on any item presented except that any council member may respond to statements made or questions asked, or may ask questions for clarification. All matters of an administrative nature will be referred to staff. All matters relating to council will be noted in the minutes and may be scheduled for discussion at a future meeting or referred to staff for clarification and report. All speakers are asked to fill out a blue card and leave it on the table designated near the podium. Please, when you approach the podium, tell us your name, tell us where you're visiting us from, who your representative is, so that we can obtain an accurate record for the minutes. Welcome.
Good evening, council members, mayor, and staff. My name's Steve Trujillo. I live in Pajaro Village in District 7. I'm here this evening because I want to compliment the Register Pajaronian for its article last Friday regarding keeping Watsonville spotless. They focused on 3 of our city workers who have probably among the most thankless tasks of all, and that is removing the dumped garbage and trash that people discard, not only in the parks, but elsewhere throughout the city, and also cleaning up the remains of the homeless encampments who move on. It is the most unglamorous and unheralded job probably in the entire city, and I am certainly hopeful that the city manager takes note of that article and recognizes that these individuals work very hard for a really, really crappy job. I mean, it's really a lousy job. It's smelly, it's dirty, it's probably even biohazardous to them if they don't wear masks. So I want to compliment the 3 of them. They've done such a great job at trying to keep ahead of the garbage and the trash that unfortunately people seem to feel that it's okay to litter, which it is not. I also want to point out a truly wonderful city employee by the name of Rex Rackley, who basically single-handedly removes the graffiti throughout this entire city with very little help. He's been doing it for years. He also operates the Zamboni, which is the steam cleaner that goes up and down Main Street and the streets adjoining it. One reason why the city streets were so beautifully clean for the 4th of July parade was because of his work. And I want to compliment him, and I'm certainly hopeful the city manager will give these 4 individuals that are city employees a lot of credit because they work very hard and do a wonderful job. I also want to point out that this afternoon the City Council of Santa Cruz announced $77,000 to clean up the Ross homeless encampment, folks. Takes a lot of money to clean up the mess when you don't have enough affordable housing for people to live in. And I've harped on this so many, many times. We must have the low and moderate income housing available. And yes, I know there are a number of veterans who are homeless with PTSD that won't accept it, but there are many others who will. And we need to put that forefront on the agenda simply because of the fact it is less expensive to house someone where they have sewer and water and running restrooms and trash facilities rather than having them live encamped on the sloughs, which, Mr. Mayor, you just bragged about in your district. We need to get these people off the streets and get them the help we need. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I, Steve?
Councilman Gonzalez?
I just wanted to add a little bit on his comments on the trash. One of the things that we need to remember as residents in the community that even though our hearts sometimes are in the right place, the outcome really winds up being trash. And I mean that in reflection of when we leave sofas outside and with a free sign, or mattresses outside with a free sign, or chairs or clothing outside. And I know our hearts are in the right place, but sometimes this just winds up in our sloughs and becomes the backyards or alleys trash. So if we can kind of take it to the sites that can handle that appropriately, it would be great. So thank you, Steve, for your comments.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. So my name's Roseanne Ferris, and I'm a nurse from Watsonville Hospital. We're here this evening just because we wanted to take the opportunity to come and thank Watsonville City Council for their active role in meeting with us as we were planning for the town hall that took place last month. We thought that it was a great success in being able to provide information to our community, and we really appreciate all the feedback and support and all that you guys each took the time to give us. We wanted to especially thank some of you guys who met with us multiple times and also who participated at the town hall, Mayor Estrada and also Councilmember Hernandez. We also wanted to ask Councilmember Kaufman Gomez if you could please take back to the PV Trust how excited and grateful we are for them exercising the right of first refusal in taking back this hospital for our community, and we're really happy that you guys took that approach. So we just wanted to take the time to thank you guys.
Thank you.
Hello, council members.
Welcome.
Brando Cencion. I live in Watsonville, District 3. So my name is Brando Cencion. I'm the program coordinator at Santa Cruz Community Ventures. Our work focuses on creating compassionate and equitable local economies that contribute to the well-being of our communities. In 2018, Santa Cruz Community Ventures and UCSC Blum Center explored local Latina mothers' experiences with traditional and alternative financial services, also known as predatory services or lending. Our study examined mothers' experiences with financial providers and mapped the location of alternative and traditional financial services, showing the disproportionate concentration of predatory lenders in Watsonville compared to Santa Cruz. Some key findings include mothers use alternative financial services to pay for necessities such as rent or to deal with emergencies or to also build credit. Alternative lenders were often perceived as easier to access than mainstream banks due to fewer requirements for legal documents and social security numbers. Mothers without a social security number reported difficulty opening a bank account or obtaining a bank loan, even if they had an ITIN or an individual taxpayer identification number. Also, hidden, confusing, and unexpected fees were identified as a significant obstacle to using mainstream banking services. So there was this lack of understanding or just being underbanked and not really truly utilizing their banking services as they should be. Another key finding was Watsonville has over twice as many alternative lenders as the city of Santa Cruz, a 3-to-1 ratio. So for every one traditional bank, there's 3 alternative lending services. And this can be ranging from payday loan, auto title loan, check cashing stores, money transfer to foreign countries, and et cetera. So not a traditional bank. We would like to, so if you would like to learn more about this study, visit our website at secvonline.org, or please contact a Santa Cruz Community Ventures team member. In addition, Santa Cruz Community Ventures would like to invite you to a conversation about predatory lending in Watsonville. The conversation will take place on October 15th at the Civic Community Plaza starting at 9 a.m. And invitations will be sent out to the council within the next coming days. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. I'm Maria Elena de la Garza. I'm the Executive Director to the Community Action Board of Santa Cruz County. I live in District 2 and I work in District 1. I'm here just to make a public comment to thank Councilwoman Trina Kaufman-Gomez for her service to in supporting community action. Councilwoman Kaufman-Gomez was on our board for over 6 years and was part of our finance committee to the board and to the agency. We are really grateful, Councilwoman Kaufman-Gomez, for your sound decision-making and your ongoing support that keeps our mission alive to eliminate poverty and create social change. So thank you for being a volunteer to our agency and serving the community in that capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been my honor to be participating and helping and being there to support the Community Action Board and all the resources that you provide to this community that we really need here. Thanks again. It's my pleasure.
Anybody else looking to address council on items not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comments at this moment and move on to item 5B on the agenda, the mayor's proclamation declaring September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Watsonville and honoring Jacob's Heart's Children's Cancer Support Services for 21 years of outstanding support to our community. And awesome. Fantastic.
One, two, one, two.
1, 2, 1, 2. You want me to do my comedy routine again?
Mic check, mic check.
Yeah. We do.
Is there another one there?
That's fine. Yeah, it's okay. So, how many of you have ever visited Jacob's Heart or accessed their services? it is important for all Watsonville residents to recognize the impact, honor the lives of children by cancer.
I'm Kimberly Lacrosse, and I know many of you from many years of service, and I want to thank you all for your service, city staff and city council members. And just start by saying that we appreciate you all taking the time to acknowledge us and make a proclamation, because really what it's about is awareness, and awareness for ourselves and awareness for others. So we exist to prove, our mission is to improve the quality of life for children with cancer and to support their families and the challenges that they face. Because basically, you can imagine, cancer is a scary thing, but imagine hearing that about your child. And also for the children. I've been with Jacob's Heart for about a year now, and I've seen some really powerful experiences, both challenging and both amazing. And so we address all the needs, meet families where they are, and help them to navigate, language barriers, transportation barriers, emotional barriers, anything that might come their way. And so for me, it's been an honor to work there. It's an honor for Jacob's Heart to serve the community and to be able to support families. And so we appreciate Watsonville for acknowledging us. And just the Watsonville community has always been so wonderful to Jacob's Heart. So we would not be here without you and your time and your donations. So Fatima has a couple other things she wants to say.
Yes, so community support to Jacob's Heart makes the child and by extension their families' lives a lot easier, whether it's transportation to Stanford or UCSF, and we have a few facilities that we're able to transport these kids from and to and from, a house to live in, emotional support, counseling, and just overall love for these kids while they're going through such a difficult time, as well as their families. And when we were founded, Jacob's mom said a few words that we would all like to share with you at Jacob's Heart. And what she said was that she heard someone say, God never gives you more than you can handle. And she never thought she could believe that again. But what she came to realize with working with Jacob's Heart is that God never gives you more than you can handle, but with other people, you can handle a lot of things. So I would like to thank you again, the Watsonville City Council, for proclaiming September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and for supporting Jacob's Heart for all these years. And we'd also like to invite all of you to the 21st Annual Kidrageous Carnival. It's going to be September 29th here in Watsonville City Plaza. And also there's going to be a 6th Annual Kidrageous Golden Gallop in Monterey on October 20th, and both have a lot of fun things for everybody's family to do: music, dancing, games, food, and it's all in honor and in memory of all the kids with cancer. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Round of applause, please, for Jacob's Heart. Okay. Now we will move on to item 5C. We have some special guests here with us today, and we have a presentation by Alianza del Valle Pájaro members regarding their Fiestas Patrias project. And so we would like to invite Mr. Former Mayor Oscar Rios up here, and we welcome you, and whenever you're ready.
Buenas noches, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I would like to introduce you Fiestas Patrias. Can you please stand up, todos los que han venido a apoyar, por favor? ¿Pueden levantar? Por favor, todos. Todos, por favor. We're going to be having a couple of speakers, so we want to follow the rule. If you can give me 3 minutes and my speakers 2 minutes to keep the 15 minutes that we've been allocated. And I guess I see my little clock here. First, we'd like to welcome everybody that has come here to support us. And if you've ever been to a Watsonville event, Fiestas Patrias, you know that it's full of energy, full of music. We close Main Street, we use the plaza, Peck Street, and it's a whole activities for the whole day. It's an event that we feel very proud and very excited every time we make it happen. I want to thank all the volunteers. They make Fiestas Patrias be what it is. Watsonville has a long history of celebrating Fiestas Patrias. In the sidewalk, sometimes some people remember, and they tell me about how they used to celebrate it in the 50s and 60s. There used to be parades. They said there used to be, queens elected, and there was a whole activities that used to happen. In 1990 is when we came and we started and we picked it up after it had stopped for many years. Fiestas Patrias is what you see today. It's a community event. It's an event that has brought not only just the folks here, but also brings a lot of the history and memory of our countries that we come from. And it's not just Fiestas Patrias when we do our events, but it's also to recognize the generations that have passed, the generations that have given us this culture, these generations that have shared with us the history that we have. We continue today in supporting, but more important, we also make a link to the immigrant community. All of us are immigrants in this country. And today especially, on these times, we feel that what is taking place in the country, where we have become, brown people have become the target of racism, being led by our president, we feel that we have to stand up and say no. And the way that we're going to say no is by voting him out. We stand here together today as Watsonville. It's a sanctuary city. It's an example of unity. It's an example of families and a way to continue our traditions. That's why we introduced you Fiestas Patrias, everyone you see here. This is Fiestas Patrias. We feel so proud, and we want to thank the city for being one of our sponsors, one of our supporters for almost the last 25, 30 years. As we go into our 30th year, we'll invite you to come, celebrate with us, and also make our numbers be counted for next year's census. So with that, we're going to have our first guest speaker for the evening. Okay, por favor, Conchita.
Hello, my name is Conchita Gonzalez, and I'm the proud owner of Conchita's Ice Cream. I guess everybody loves me. Well, anyway, I came to Watsonville when I was 5 years old, and this is home. I love Watsonville, and I love everybody here. And also, I worked at Watsonville Canning for many years, and then like 15 years, and then we went on strike, and that was so sad. But I had a dream that I wanted to be an ice cream lady. So that's why I pursued my dream, and now I am Conchita's Ice Cream. Okay, and then also, I want to thank everybody for Plaza Vigil to give me a great chance. And I also want to thank everybody here in Watsonville that's been supporting me. And I'm here to, with Oscar Rios, because I want to support the Fiestas Patrias, because it's a great event. And since we have a Mexican Latinos here in Watsonville, and I think it's a great place to come and join us. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Ruby Vasquez. I'm a lifelong member here in Watsonville, educator and folklorico dancer. I've been doing it since I was 5 years old. I was one of those kids dancing at those very, very first Fiesta Patrias events that would happen at the Vets Hall. And it's true, we would have it at the Vets Hall where we would gather on the 15th to do the celebratory grito is what they call it. And then that following weekend there would be a parade. There would be queens, there would be princesses, there would be floats, there would be a huge celebration. And again, always supported by our city. So now I have my own dance group. I have Estrellas de Esperanza. Can you guys stand up? Parents and children. These children, we don't have to apply to dance. Like in other places, we have to apply to be able to dance at an event. But every year at the Fiestas Patrias and Cinco de Mayo event, we are welcome to perform. The kids, it's just an important experience for them to share their talent, their culture with their community. And then we get a little stipend for doing it, which is always a great thing. But it's Fiestas Patrias, when I was a child doing that, it just developed my confidence. The person who I am now, public speaker, community activist, cultural preserver of our culture. And I hope that these opportunities do the same for these children and for our youth. It's just so important these days, as Oscar mentioned, and we all know what's going on. These kids hear about it. I have a little one whose mom called me the other day, and she said she's afraid to go dance at the Mole Festival. If it wasn't a festival, she would go dance. But now in her mind, festival is the same as something tragic is going to happen. And I think it's just so important that we continue as a city. Please continue to support this. If there was a way that you could just put it on the books so it would be there forever, I would say go for it. Anyhow, thank you for your time, and again, thank you for your support.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and staff. My name is Jenny Sarmiento, and I live in District 4. And yes, I agree with the mayor. District 4 is the entry to our beautiful Watsonville. But I'm not originally from Watsonville, but I joined the community. The community embraced me probably almost 25 years ago. And I love this community, and I love the idea that we can celebrate the different cultures that we've had in the valley. And the Mexican culture, which is the largest of our residents in our community, is just a wonderful event to continue doing. And also, for those of you who are educators, you know that when kids learn about their own history, when they learn to appreciate all the gains that their culture, their group has made in this country or anywhere else, they do so much better in school. So having these opportunities and venues where the culture is celebrated, where children and youth are able to participate, dance, and also show that there's so much pride as a dancer and also for us who are watching them. So I really would like to continue the City Council to support Fiestas Patrias, Cinco de Mayo, because they bring a lot of pride to our community. Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Alfredo Torres. I live in District 6, and I work out of District 4, and I insure homes in all of your districts. My name is Alfredo. I'm an insurance agent in town, and I just wanted to share and say thank you for supporting community events, which end up being, whether you know it or not, a resource fair. Every single one of these, as long as Fiestas Patrias has been around and invited different businesses to participate in these events, not just to sponsor and be able to pay for the musicians and everything else, but it also acts as a resource fair in helping people learn about other businesses, opportunities, and for those businesses that we so importantly need and hear. It's a great way for it to all come together. Local business, stimulate our economy, our local economy, our downtown, but also serve as a cultural and art event in many different levels. I'm always amazed at how many people come from out of town when I sponsor one of these events, from Fresno, from Antigua, from Santa Barbara, whether it be Fiestas Patrias or Cinco de Mayo or the Strawberry Festival or the 4th of July. Watsonville has always served as an example to other towns that didn't have these events beforehand. We've always set an example. I hope we continue to set that example for future generations. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Graciela Vega, and Ari Parker is my councilwoman, and my house is insured by Alfredo's. And I come from the state where our mayor and Felipe recently visited. I was born in Michoacan, and I'm here because I'm the granddaughter of a bracero who came here and picked the lettuce fields. And Nina, my Nina, who's here in the audience, worked many years for Driscoll. So Madrina and Noche that are here. So I want to honor them. And so for me, I'm dressed in my region. I'm from La Región Lacustre of Michoacán, which is in the northern part that is with Jalisco. When you hear mariachi, in Purépero, our town is known for the mariachi because you can even hear it on Apple. El mariachi Sandejas and el mariachi Ordaz. But I came dressed in my clothing because my earliest memory is my mother putting on my braids and having my apron on and going to the plaza. And I get to do this tradition again today. I was walking by the plaza and some people were staring like, where is she going? But I wanted to present because it's about storytelling and about love. And Watsonville is a place where I love. My grandfather chose it because it looks like Purépero. If you go to Purépero during the rainy season, it resembles Watsonville just during the rainy season as well. But I'm not only an educator, but I'm also a multidisciplinary artist. And I bring this into the classroom as an educator through dance, through poetry. My students aren't here today. I'll come next year. I'll get them prepared. And so there'll be more students. But I want to thank you because you are the heart. Fiestas Patrias es el corazón. And I hope you continue supporting. And I want to thank you, each and every one of you, and even our staff that work for the city of Watsonville. You make it happen. All of you. Thank you.
Mayor, council members, staff, friends, buenas tardes. I'm Raquel Mariscal. I've lived in the Pájaro Valley for approximately 42 years, both outside and inside of the city. In the current national environment and narrative, the Latina, Latino, Latinx community is widely misperceived, persecuted, and vilified, and is especially in need today of voices to acknowledge and humanize us. Your 30 years of sustained support of Fiestas Patrias is a loud proclamation that you will not be complicit in the othering of any of our rich and diverse populations in the Pájaro Valley. Instead, you opt for inclusion of a culture that have and continue to be a vital force in all aspects of our community. For the last 30 years, I have worked in the youth and criminal justice systems and systems reform. And your support of Fiestas Patrias consequentially provides an opportunity to civically engage for currently or formerly justice-impacted young men. The partnership garnered between Fiestas Patrias and Si Se Puede provides its residents the opportunity to volunteer and support these events, not only exposing these young men to history and culture, but allowing for civic pride and responsibility. the opportunity to take pride in their role of creating a safe and healthy space for familias. And I emphasize healthy in as much as the events sponsored by Fiestas Patrias are alcohol-free, pretty rare these days, yet continue to attract familias from near and far. The testimonials that you've heard this evening speak to the impact Fiestas Patrias has on our community. These events made possible by your support and the efforts of the many volunteers, many that are here tonight. Notably, though, that of Oscar Rios, whose leadership, convictions, vision, and organizing not only germinated Fiestas Patrias, but who has unselfishly ensured its continued presence in our community. His commitment to inclusion and participatory processes have been key to the rich and beautiful mosaic that you see up there of these events, of ensuring that these pieces of our cultural legacy will continue to be uplifted. So, Oscar, on behalf of our community, gracias. Council members, thank you for your time, your support, and your leadership.
That concludes our presentation. We want to thank you so much for giving us the opportunity, and we hope we come back here in 30 years. I don't know how many of us will be around, but, we'll be back. And to everybody that came, we would like to go outside and take a picture, okay, all together, please. And we want to really thank you for coming here, for everything that you do. Again, nuestra familia. Esta es nuestra familia. Muchas gracias. ¿Ah? Viva.
Councilwoman Garcia?
I remember Fiestas Patrias since the 1960s. As you heard, we used to have parades, and I was one of the princesses on the parade. And it was sad when it stopped happening, but the pride grew again when Oscar Rios brought Fiestas Patrias back to Watsonville. And if you ever know what it takes to produce a festival, it's a lot of work. It needs leadership, it needs organization, and it needs lots and lots of volunteers. And they all come out. They all come out because they all are proud of our heritage and who we are. So I thank Oscar and all of you for continuing that pride in Watsonville.
Rios, I have a question for you. Can you come to the podium real quick? Sorry. First off, thank you for always leading and organizing the event and for bringing everyone out here. Simple question. What day is the Fiestas Patrias? What time and where?
Okay, this coming up is going to be September the 15th, Sunday, right here in the plaza. And the 15th is very, very significant day because Monday is the 16th, which is the independence of Mexico. And the 15th is a lot of Central American countries, one of them being El Salvador, where I'm from. But all of us are Latino, and all of us are look no difference to somebody that don't like us, okay?
Thank you. Councilman Hurst?
I just want to thank the leadership of Fiesta Patrias and Alianza and their inclusiveness. You know, they way back in 1990, and actually before that, in '89 when I was first elected, they included me, an old white guy. Well, I wasn't old then, but I was 43, I think, when I was first elected. And so I just want to say thank you for your inclusiveness and thank you for bringing a community event by and for the people of this community. Thank you.
Councilman Hernandez?
You know, I have to say that the Fiestas Patrias events were some of the first events that I attended where I did some of my first fundraising at some of the events, helping out there with these different student groups here in Watsonville. And so it was my first taste of fundraising as a 22-year-old. It was my first taste of doing nonpartisan voter registration drives several times, like 3 times with Southwest Voter Registration Project. I got to reach out, you know, a lot of people out there, you know, talking to individuals about registering to vote, about citizenship. I I got to talk to a lot of people in 1999 about the census drive. I was part of the city committee at that time. Rebecca was as well, too. So we got to talk to a lot of people there during that time. I got to do my first public speaking engagement in front of 7,000 people there. Not only that, in Spanish to top it off, as a 22-year-old. So I was really nervous. So, I think that we have this great opportunity with Fiestas Patrias. As a city, we have this great opportunity to create this partnership, to create this outreach with our Latino community. Watsonville is about 85% Latino. And especially on critical issues that we're facing, whether it's census is an important issue. And right now, with the political climate, folks don't want to participate in census. So we need to do outreach in these communities. We need to do outreach to these 10,000 people that are out there twice a year regarding census, regarding immigration, regarding city services, regarding things like general services like public charge that's going on right now, regarding voter registration, regarding workforce issues, housing, and most of all, things like civic engagement. As a city, that's our role, is to get the community involved, civic engagement. And that means everybody in the community, right? That means our 85% are Spanish-speaking community. And these festivals also get our indigenous-speaking community to show up to these festivals. So we have to do outreach to not only the Spanish-speaking community, but the indigenous-speaking community that are here putting food on the nation's table. So I think we really have an opportunity as a city to really engage all of our community. And like our quote says, opportunity through diversity, unity through cooperation. And I think there's an opportunity for us between the city and Fiestas Patrias.
Well said, Councilman. Councilman Gonzalez?
That's going to be really tough to follow, but anyways, I do, Fiestas Patrias has put together festivals for our community for many years, and it's been a safe and healthy environment that they've put out for our community. And it's just not our Latino community, but everyone is invited to these fiestas. And I've walked it and I've seen it. And that's the beauty of the Fiestas Patrias, is it's not just exclusive, but it's inclusive to our whole community. And that's the important thing here, and I think that's the important message. Just like Oscar Rios said, we are all immigrants. We all came here from other places, or even from other countries, and the administration that exists now is not a good one. I'll just put it that way. I'll just keep it nice. But it's created so much fear. But the thing with the Fiestas Patrias is that it creates so much comfort and love that everybody's welcomed, and then that's the beauty of it. And I think that's, just as we can see here in this photograph, and just reflective of what's in this audience, this is our community. And you just look around and just say hi to your neighbors. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Gonzalez. All right, well, we just want to thank you once again. We will see you out there September 15th in La Plaza. And I hope to see everyone out there, and those who are watching at home, we hope that you come out. And thank you again. Yes. Okay. And so we're going to just give people a minute or two to take their picture.
She was one of the organizers. Yeah, so I'm meeting with her.
give him a minute. Okay. Yeah, that's a good roll. That's a good roll. Yeah. Okay, moving on to item 5D on the agenda. Mr. City Attorney, do we have anything to report out of closed session?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council considered and received reports from staff on all the items on tonight's closed session agenda, but took no final action on any of them.
Thank you. Moving on to item 6, consent agenda. All items appearing on the consent agenda are recommended actions which are considered to be routine and will be acted upon as one consensus motion. Any items removed will be considered immediately after the consensus motion. The mayor will allow public input prior to the approval of the consent agenda. So at this moment, I'd like to invite anybody from the public to provide us with input on any item on the consent agenda. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Earl LeBeau. I know most of you. I've been a little pest the last 6 weeks, but I want to thank you all very much for placing the Medicare for All resolution on this council, this month's agenda. We really appreciate it. I'm assuming that everybody is in agreement. It's a very important item, and I think it's extremely important to continue to keep this item and this issue, present and in the face of, people throughout this country, but certainly within Watsonville. So again, I'm very grateful for all, that all of you are in favor of this and supporting this. And let's hear it from all the Medicare for All people here. Thank you again.
Thank
and
you.
My name is Earl LeBeau, by the way.
Thank you, Mr. LeBeau.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to address council on any item on the consent agenda? Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. I still can't get over the carnitas comment, council member. Thank you for that. The good thing is I get to leave after my comments, and unfortunately you have to stick around for some time. But I'll go enjoy those tacos de carnitas. My name is Victor Gomez, Government Affairs Director for the Santa Cruz County Association of Realtors. I wanted to provide some quick comments on item K on your agenda. The proposed resolution regarding rent increases and just cause evictions, as I'm sure you're aware, our membership represents about 1,200 member realtors here in Santa Cruz County, and we wanted to take the opportunity to reach out to you and ask that you, as you proceed on this topic specifically, that you reach out to us, reach out to the association. We would like to be at the table and provide our expertise on this topic as you move forward. With that said, though rent increases do happen, a majority of the impact of rising rents is directly associated with the lack of new housing stock and the 3 million units that we are short in the state of California. If you are not meeting your RENA requirements and actually building the units, this issue of rising rents would essentially go away. You wouldn't have these issues if you continue to build. And Watsonville has been proactive, and we do commend you for that leadership. But we want to be at the table as you have those discussions. So we respectfully ask that you encourage that you reach out and engage the Real Estate Association and the California Apartment Association as well to discuss these solutions to rent control issues. I understand this is just a resolution. There's no necessarily teeth on this resolution, but we look forward to working with each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Mayor Estrada and council members, my name is Linda Marin, and I lived in Watsonville for 10 years, 6 years ago, and this was such a perfect meeting to remind me of how much I loved coming to these meetings and what a wonderful community this is, and that I miss it. I'm from Santa Cruz now, but I want to tonight thank you for your foresight and your wisdom in supporting a national health care plan that it's not only just and responsible, but more and more necessary as we face the increasing health challenges brought on by a deranging climate. I should say that I am the chapter leader for Citizens Climate Lobby in Santa Cruz, and climate is something that is always on my mind. And when I say a deranging climate, I mean one that has already begun to exceed temperature ranges that humans and our brother and sister species have co-evolved with over thousands and thousands of years. Climate change and healthcare are integrally connected. As temperatures rise, diseases confined to particular latitudes and longitudes inhabit new species and spaces, bringing new illnesses to our communities. And as we continue to use fossil fuels, associated pollutants, along with the global warming CO2 molecule, bring us more and more asthma and lung disease and heart disease and kidney diseases and even cancer. And more problematic for all of us, I know, is that younger and younger people are being accosted with these diseases. So as our climate challenges increase, so does the challenge to help all of us, not just those privileged to have private health insurance, to address the range and complexity of the health challenges that many of us are already facing. I can't thank you enough for Watsonville's leadership in resolving to support Medicare for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor Estrada and members of the City Council. My name is Keshav Kumar, and I represent the California Apartment Association. The CAA is a nonprofit trade association representing rental housing providers throughout the state. Our Tri-County division, where I work, serves the members of Santa Cruz County. CAA appreciates the City Council's focus on housing for the 2018 to 2020 strategic plan. However, we are also concerned about item K tonight. CAA urges the Watsonville City Council to engage with community partners, local landlords, employers, and developers to create collaborative solutions to the housing challenges facing local residents. CAA has worked closely with other cities to develop programs such as landlord-tenant dispute resolution services, minimum lease term ordinances, and programs that assist tenants displaced when their unit is deemed uninhabitable. And we welcome the opportunity to work with you as well, and I look forward to coming into contact with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else looking to address the council on any item on the consent agenda? Bless you. Welcome.
My name is Anthony Banovac, and I'm a landlord and a realtor as well. And I know the idea of rent control and all that is, in theory, it's a great idea. But in actuality, it's very hard to work out. So like the gentleman said before, we'd really appreciate if you'd work with us because it's not so easy. It's really hard on both sides. And this thing with just cause evictions, if somebody's not very good, right now you can just give them their notice, but if they're not, then you have to expose why, and it might be better for the tenant. You know, this is going to be harder for some of the tenants because then you have to explain why you wanted them out. And that's going to put them in a predicament when they go to rent someplace else. Right now you could just say, you know, here's your notice, and then they won't have any problem, but you could put them in a real predicament too. So it's hard on both sides. Just please be really careful with this, and that's all I ask.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else looking to address council on any item on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public input and bring it back to my colleagues here. Councilman Hurst.
I would move the consent agenda.
Can I get?
I'll second it.
Thank you. And Councilman Garcia, you want to say some words?
Yes. I was the one that requested item K, and so I want to explain why I
Are we going to be pulling this?
No.
To all talk about it, or just?
No, this is
her?
discussion of the motion.
I
Okay.
would like it to be pulled for further discussion.
Item
Please.
K?
Yes, item K,
Okay.
and some questions on item D as well.
Okay, so we will be pulling item K from the consent agenda. Okay, and Councilman Garcia, do you have any questions on any of the other?
Just K.
Councilman Kaufman Gomez?
On item D, this is an emergency services we're paying a consultant for, but can you elaborate a bit more about what the money is going to be used for the consultants and what the consultants are going to be returning to us in terms of the emergency services? I'm not quite clear on the whole project that we're doing for the award.
Are we on? Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. So this item, we were lucky enough to receive a $112,000 grant, I believe, from California Office of Emergency Services. And so the purpose of this grant is to develop what they call a local hazard mitigation plan. And so basically it's mostly going to be taking a look at the big natural disasters that are potentially likely to occur in our area. Earthquake, flood, fire are probably the big ones. Take a look at our overall emergency response services, how we are planning, how we were making our community aware of these potential emergencies, and just give us a good evaluation of where we are now, what do we need to do. It's a big picture planning tool. We also do kind of more specific planning in terms of our emergency operations. This is much more of a big picture policy kind of report that they'll do for us, and it includes a certain amount of community involvement and engagement as well. One of the big benefits of doing this kind of study is that it basically sets up the city to qualify for various forms of grant funding from the state, and so we are applying for various kinds of grants. One particular grant application we have in right now is to reinforce the levees behind our wastewater treatment plant, and so this will actually help us get points in that application process. That's one example of how this could be used. The other big benefit that we see that could come out of this is we get points in our flood hazard mitigation program. And so by doing this, it will give us a certain number of points. And the more points you get in that program, then we can help our residents by potentially lowering some of their flood insurance premiums. And so that's one of the main drivers of this project, and why we went for the grant is really that's kind of the more tangible benefit that could come out of this is lower flood insurance premiums for our residents. So.
Thank you. I know that we can all face, or any of us could face at any time, an emergency that we would need to involve FEMA, and having that kind of relationship and having a plan, what the exit strategy is, what the evacuation strategies are, educating the youth of what goes on. Let's say they're still in school and something happens. This is a huge component that this community needs to have. We have seen other communities, and I'd like to make sure that we can sync this in for the presentations as we need to, just to even highlight what the progress is being made, because it's significant. We don't know. 9/11's just around the corner. We have October, our anniversary coming up soon. In terms of our earthquake, we've seen fires throughout our region. We've talked about the climate action and things like that are going on. So this is a very important and relevant topic, so that we know that we have engaged whatever we possibly can to make our community as safe as possible. So it's good investment for us, and thank you, and I look forward to seeing some more items brought back to us.
Great, thank you.
Councilwoman, can I ask a question on this item real quick?
Sure.
Are we taking into account climate change by any chance, rising sea levels or anything like that?
You know, I believe that is part of this,
Okay.
actually. I'm trying to remember if that was in the scope of work, but I believe they do talk about that, and they will be taking a look at that as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions on item G. for the resolution approving the 2-year contract with Pajaro Valley Prevention and Student Assistance Program.
I'll ask Nick, our Parks and Community Services Director, to come down and address those.
Welcome. Thank you. One of my questions is in regards to, I was reading through the program plan for the Pajaro Valley PSA, and it states here that the services will be a short-term services of 3 to 6 months for individuals, youth 6 to 22, and then they'll be put to another program. And my concern is this is my concern is that is there any fees that these children or young adults will have to pay if they're put into another program?
I believe what the referral process is, and what's mentioned in the report in terms of the referral process is really meant to say that if there are services beyond what's provided through the case management program that are required of the family or of the individual youth, then they'll be moved on to whichever programs or services are deemed necessary, and there may or may not be fees, really depending on the situation, I think, of the child and the family. As we all know, Pajaro Valley Prevention and Student Assistance Services offers a number of different programs and services throughout the community. I think most of which would be also available to the students in the program as well. But I'm going to refer to our partners at PVPSA to help kind of answer that as well.
Good evening. My name is Adriana Mata, and I'm a program manager at PVPSA. And I just wanted to go ahead and answer the question that you had in regards to services. So what we do in regards to the services that you mentioned between 3 to 6 months, so every youth that comes through the program or that's going to get referred is going to have a risk assessment, initial assessment completed. And depending on the risk level or the need that's identified, then that's how we're going to determine the level of care that the student's going to receive. It could be that after they complete it, we refer them to other natural resources between the time that they're receiving therapy, case management, or mental health services. We're going to kind of see what other support systems they're in place that we can refer them over to. So we're not just going to close them and, okay, see you later. We're going to make sure that they have other services available for them. If it's out in the community or at the schools or wherever we feel the need is. Also, we are going to be working closely with the parents as well. We're going to be providing parenting classes, and we're also going to be providing family conferencing to make sure that everybody that's the key players in that family are involved in the therapy, and that there's a treatment plan modality for everybody in the family, not only the child, but the family as a whole.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to make sure this, because, I mean, we are transferring the Contigo program with the PCS services now, right? This was with the... And I just wanted to make sure that the families that were with that program are aware that there is going to be better services, and hopefully that their services aren't going to be, because they were residents that are in need of services that don't have the financial resources to pay for the services sometimes. And I just want to make sure that some of these folks that are involved in these programs don't later on down the road wind up having to pay for services.
Yes, definitely. So the case management services that we're going to be offering through the Youth Center and through PVPSA, I mean, the overall model looks a little bit different than how it looked at the Contigo program previously. And the biggest change really is that now these services are open to not just the individuals and families who live in the Marinovich neighborhood, but they're open to individuals in the entire community. And so I think that's the piece that we're really excited about, and really, I think, fortunate to be working with PVPSA on together.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Garcia?
Yes. In the item, it talks about a family plan that's going to provide parent education. My question is, will there also provide parent leadership skills as did the Contigo program?
Yeah, so right now we are working on a model that's going to work for the parents that are going to be taking part of the services. So right now we're working on an open house that we're going to be actually scheduled for the 3rd week of September. And we're going to be inviting families as a whole to come in, and from that from that meeting, we're gonna do like a little plan and see what they're interested in, and we're gonna continue those professional development activities for the families, because one of the things we want is family engagement, because that's something that we haven't really seen at the youth center. So we do want parents to participate, and for that opening event that we have planned, that we've been working on, we do have like a little incentive. If you bring a parent, you also take part of a raffle, because we want the families to participate and the parents to be actually there to support the youth and their treatment, because we want to see the program a little bit different than just, okay, you go to the youth center and then I'll see you at 8 o'clock. We want them to be involved, we want them to be engaged, and we want them to be in a safe place, but we also want that extra support for the parents. So we are going to be having some additional family engagement and parent series for the parents as well.
That's wonderful, because in the Contigo program, the parent leadership was something that stood out for the program, is parents feeling that they could come before city council, they could go before someplace else and speak and share in terms of the needs that they had and the success of their students. So it's good that they will still have leadership development. Thank you.
Councilwoman Kaufman-Gomez.
Yes, I know that we're short on some of the other items for me to ask about the budget, but could you tell us the source of funding for this, please?
Sure. So the funding for this contract is part of the adopted general fund, and it falls under contract services for the youth center, our youth development programs. As we made some changes to the Contigo program and to all of our youth development services moving out of last fiscal year into this fiscal year, we were able to reallocate funds into that specific account to help afford this contract and this agreement.
The general instead of Measure G.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Hurst.
Just finishing up with the consent agenda, I want to point out on item D, the hazard mitigation plan. This also helps us prepare for FEMA, and whatever FEMA can do or not do for us, we need to be ready for them. And having lived through the earthquake and the great floods, we need to be ready with FEMA. On item number F, the community policing officer at the high schools, here's a great partnership that needs to be pointed out. And, you know, it's a little over $250,000, but student safety is priceless. And so I think what we can do with partnerships with the school district is always very important. Item number L, the National Health Care Plan, Medicare for All. This is way overdue. This is something that we see every day, particularly as a senior citizen, that we need to have a national health care plan for everybody so they don't all end up old and sick, just old. That's it.
Okay. All right, any other questions, clarifying questions on the consent agenda? Okay. So we have a motion on the floor made by Councilman Hurst, seconded by Councilwoman Garcia, with the omission of item K on the consent agenda. And Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready.
Kaufman Gomez,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Hurst,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Estrada.
Yes, motion passes. And now we will move on to item 7 on the agenda, items removed from consent agenda, and item K was removed from the agenda, and Councilwoman Garcia?
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, I was the one that requested this resolution, and I wanted to explain why I made that request. A few years ago, a young mother with 3 children, she was a single parent. She was renting a 2-bedroom house here in Watsonville. And in 1 year, her landlord raised her rent 3 times in 1 year. She had to feed her children cereal for dinner because she could not afford to buy groceries for them. So earlier this year, I met with Matt, and I told him I wanted him to do some research, and I wanted him to research other cities in our area or throughout California to see how, in fact, they may be able to support renters, but also support good landlords, because we have some very good landlords here in Watsonville also. And so in March, the council received a housing white paper, and in it contained a landlord initiative that is used in the city of San Jose. And basically, the landlord initiative acts like conflict resolution between landlord and tenant. I wanted, but I know that's going to be long-term because, one, we have to develop the program, and when we develop the program, we're going to have many people at the table. We're going to have realtors, we're going to have landlords, we're going to have nonprofits, possibly even attorneys and many others, to see how we can all work together to support our renters. And so I wanted, in the meantime, the community to know what are the values and principles that we're going to bring forth in terms of this development of this initiative. And so this resolution addresses issues of rent increases, issues of just evictions, and issues of housing code enforcement. And what's going to happen is, well, what this resolution is not, it is not rent control. In order for anything to be rent control, it has to be voted by our voters, by our residents. This is just a resolution to bring all entities, all stakeholders together to see, okay, we want to support renters because in Watsonville, we have over 20,000 dwellings are rentals. So we do need to be supporting our renters. So what this resolution is only doing is supporting what we're going to do as an initiative, which still has to be developed, one, and we still have to find funding for it, two. And we're going to be able to do both of those. And so when all these stakeholders come together, we're going to be able to say, okay, what can we do in terms of reasonable rent increases? What can we do in terms of just evictions? What can we do in terms of housing code enforcement? So I'm hopeful that this will be a unanimous decision tonight in terms of adopting this resolution.
Thank you. Councilwoman Kaufman-Gomez?
Sure. Susie, I think that you're the one that I have to ask the questions of this one, I believe. I'll start off with, I'm very supportive with what we need to do here in terms of the housing, and I don't think that there's anything hidden there. It's fully transparent that housing is an utmost that we have here. And I've had multiple conversations when it comes to the community and staff. So some of my questions here are, putting together, even though we know that this is a resolution, my question is, did you check with Aldina Property Management? I'm going to go down the list, so I'm just going to.
We did. In fact, last Monday, our housing team and our building official met with the entire Aldina's office.
Did you meet with Oliver Property Management?
No.
Did you meet with Bailey Properties?
No.
Did you meet with the Berkshire Associates? So what we're trying to do here is a resolution, but I'm not hearing coming to the table part of it, that I feel we, regardless if this is a resolution or step forward, I want to make sure that we have everybody at the table before we draft something that is, we've jumped ahead without involving the rest of the folks that need to be at the table here, because there are a lot of robust suggestions and the way that things could be formatted to work together. Because putting something together without hearing from the property managers that we do have in this community, it's a balance that's not balanced at all, that we're having some arbitrary things. And I know that this is, the no teeth because of it being the resolution, but if we're not engaging everybody when we're putting things together that we're being voted on, then we're not inclusive in the dialogue that we need to take place here. And those are some of the primary commercial rental management companies that not only do the management of their own properties, but of other community members' properties. And I am not in any way condoning or saying, you're doing a great job, and I know we work together on everything that's going on here, and you know that you hear from me because I drill down on everything that goes on, and it is for us to come to something that's going to work for our community as a whole. And we do have bad players. We have some great players that are out there, and I think that setting anything that needs to go to vote without seeing that we have everybody at the table is not tipping, it's an unbalanced situation here for us to set policy on. So I'm hoping that rather than us putting something together when we have only had maybe one of those agencies really having this conversation, that we postpone it to the point where we can actually reach out to them and have them look this over. We have a board of realtors that is a very valuable resource that have been in this industry for decades, and having them also participate tells them that we're not doing something that you're now going to have to adopt. It's coming to the table to say, what can we work together on to adopt, and that we're really inclusive on everything that's going on there. There's a lot of consequences that go both ways, and I just want to make sure that you hear from everybody. We've had a few of them come in, and I think that those points are well taken for us to hold this, for having that conversation go a little further down.
Thank you. I do hear you. I wanted to point out the last sentence on the resolution. It authorizes, if it passes, it authorizes staff, which is my office, to participate in outreach and promotional efforts in order to engage community partners, local landlords, employers, and developers to increase and maintain workforce housing within the city. So that was my way of saying, okay, you passed this, also authorize me to go and talk to all of them. It's time consuming, it's a lot of work. And in the future, we can come back together, and if you want to have something more meaningful, well, then we'll work on that.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions on item K? Okay. Councilman Hurst?
Well, just in conclusion, I think the resolution spells itself out pretty well in that it supports housing codes, engaging community partners, landlords, employers, and builders too. And so hopefully this will be an inclusive process and that it gets folks' attention, and I think it probably did. So I think that I'm ready to move the motion.
Councilwoman
under
Parker?
discussion.
Thank you.
If you'll second it.
Okay, can we get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Thank you.
But then I'm going to continue. So I do agree that it needs to be an inclusive process, and it sounds like I read it 5 or 6 times looking for all that, and it's really philosophical at this point as a resolution, moving forward in a positive way. But I see Watsonville, we have such great landlords here, and we have a few bad actors, that's for sure. But for the most part, we have great landlords, and they're willing to work with all the folks that have troubles. And being a part of the process is really important for them. It's important for us. Like we have our special, with our mobile home parks, we have a special protection there. I know some of these things are happening in the senior area, where seniors are very much on a set income. So as things start to move up, it becomes trouble for them. Will they be able to even maintain housing here in Watsonville? So I very much support this conversation, and it's continuing.
Thank you. Councilman Gonzalez?
Just a quick comment on this. I support this resolution, but I think we're looking into the future here, which is good. Watsonville is going to grow. There is going to be more housing built, and I think we need to start setting the right momentum, so we don't wind up with housing that's built. It's out of price, and then pushes prices up. So that's really important that we start setting the precedence of, we want to take care of our working force. That is actually the backbone of Santa Cruz County, of the whole county. We carry the big labor force here, and so we need to make sure that we can house them appropriately and adequately without them being priced out and having to go to Castroville or Manteca or Los Baños. So I support this fully.
Councilwoman Kaufman Gomez?
Yeah, it isn't about, I think it's the process that concerns me. I don't think that the language is here that's so much of the issue. It's the engagement that I feel, even because what's happening here in what I'm hearing from my profession is, there goes the city putting something together without our conversation and then coming back later to say, now you want to engage us in the conversation. And that's the part that I feel that the industry wants to be part of. And I think that by pulling in a few of the folks that we can, you're hearing that from them as well. And that's my reservation. I don't think that this particular this resolution is going to have a significant impact, other than, had they been engaged, then there's probably a better opportunity for buy-in of working something that's going to be effective for the community as a whole. And it isn't saying that we're doing a whole rent control situation, but it's a very sensitive line to balance. And I think that you have a lot of professional engagement that could take place to make this something that's equitable, transparent, and protective. Not only of, I mean, we don't want any misconceptions that we're putting something together here, and the landlord who's done everything they possibly can do is getting penalized in the process here. We want to make sure that it's very clear that they're engaged in how this, what the ramifications of some of the policy that's being adopted could affect them, so that we have the right language in place. So I think it's the process that is I'm concerned about, not that this is the engagement of this. So just my take on it.
Thank you, Councilwoman Garcia.
I just want to remind the council that actually the conversation started in March when the white paper, housing white paper, was presented. And in it, there was a landlord initiative. And all of us voted unanimously to accept the landlord initiative. And as I mentioned earlier, the landlord initiative is going to be long-term, because it's going to need all those stakeholders to come together to develop this initiative. My reason, again, as I stated earlier, why I wanted this resolution is, in the meantime, while we're developing this landlord initiative, while we're trying to find funding, is I wanted the community to know that something is still happening. We're still really committed to making sure that we can have safe and affordable housing for our renters specifically, since they're the majority of our people here. And so the process is going to happen. And as Carlos mentioned, it's part of the resolution. That process is going to happen. Everybody's going to come to the table. This is just saying to our community, we're still with you. We understand your plight. We want to do everything we can to support you. But this is just a support for that. And so for that, I call for the question.
I have one more comment to that as a result, and one is, the vote we took was to accept the white paper, and it was not to go, it was just to accept the findings. That was what we formally approved at the time that the white paper was presented.
Included the landlord initiative.
It was a report that was accepted, and I know that based off of that, Carlos was just getting started, and there's quite a few questions as a result of that particular paper that I know we are still trying to continue the dialogue. So I just want the clarification that we voted to accept the paper, but that's all in terms of the findings at the time that we took that. But nonetheless, if you want to call the vote.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor made by Councilman Hurst, seconded by Councilwoman Parker. And it's the resolution supporting reasonable rent increases, just evictions, and related housing code enforcement activities for the city of Watsonville. Madam Clerk, whenever you are ready.
Kaufman Gomez,
No.
Garcia,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Hurst,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Estrada.
Yes. Motion passes. And we thank everyone who came out to speak on behalf of the item on the agenda. And we look forward to speaking with you, talking to you, working together to find working solutions, win-wins for everyone. So thank you again. We will move on to item 8 on the agenda, public hearings, ordinances, and appeals. 8A, consideration of application PP 2019-181 for a general plan map amendment, zoning map amendment, lot consolidation, special use permit with design review and environmental review for construction of a 11,273 square foot medical office building at 5 Nielsen Street and 58 Hanger Way, filed by David Kim with Meridian Property Company, applicant on behalf of Adolfo Garcia Nava and Monica Mejia Gomez, property owners. So Director Miriam, whenever you are ready, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, member of the public. I'm Justin Meek, Principal Planner, and I'll be giving the staff presentation for this item. So a quick overview. I'll touch on the background for the request before you tonight, describe the proposed project in a little bit of detail, provide a brief discussion on land use compatibility, how the project is consistent with development regulations, the purpose of the lot consolidation, and touch on the environmental review. Note the recommendation made by the Planning Commission and how the council may make required findings in support of this action. So the project before you tonight requires a number of project approvals or entitlements. Some are legislative, some are adjudicative or quasi-judicial in nature. The general plan map amendment and rezoning are legislative actions that require changing the designations of the project site land uses from industrial to a different form to allow medical office use. Because of that, there is a requirement for a special use permit, because within the institutional zoning district, a special use permit is needed before establishment of a medical office use. There's design review with any construction activity. These things could have been accomplished by staff had there not been the land use change. And because of the fact that this is on 2 sites with a proposed building that would cross a property boundary, there's the need for lot consolidation. As I mentioned before, this went before the Planning Commission for their recommendation on July 2nd. The project site is at the corner of Nielsen and Hanger Way. It's currently designated for industrial use. Along Hanger Way is other industrial park type uses. However, just off to the left is, as you well know, the Watsonville Community Hospital. That's in a different designated land use and zoning district. And so the purpose of this is to change the land use to be consistent with the hospital site. The proposed project involves the construction of a single-story structure that's roughly 11,400 square feet in size. The use would be medical office, specifically a dialysis clinic that would be operated by DaVita. The floor area inside the building include mostly treatment areas, along with receiving, office, conference room, a number of bathrooms, and of course storage space as well. With the development of the building itself, there are site improvements in the form of parking spaces for the employees and visitors, stormwater detention facilities, as well as landscaping. It's a site plan showing the proposed layout of the building. On the top, up here, would be Nielsen, and this is Hanger Way. As you can see, there's 2 driveway approaches into the site that access the parking lot, and you can see these brown areas, those are your stormwater management facilities, and trash enclosure, loading zone, and so forth. The business hours and the type of activities that would occur within this building involve 24 hemodialysis treatment stations at full build-out of this facility, along with 2 peritoneal, I can't say that, dialysis treatment rooms, with peritoneal, there you go. Excuse me. Again, at full build-out, the applicant anticipates that it would be 15 to 20 full-time employees with up to 30 jobs with part-time employees as well. The hours are 6 to 10 p.m., Monday through Saturday. So the current zoning and general plan designations are shown on these maps. As you can see, along Hanger Way is industrial, and it's in the IP zone. And so the proposal would be to to have the same designation as the adjoining property for the hospital, which is designated public or quasi-public, which does allow medical uses. And again, to rezone the property for N, or institutional, which of course requires the special use permit to allow that establishment. In terms of land use compatibility, we would match the adjoining property designations for the hospital. It would provide complementary services for the hospital by providing supplementary outpatient medical services. And the proposed development would improve a site that has been vacant for many years. The building has a modern design, and the proposed development is consistent with all development regulations, including everything from parking to drainage. And of course, we went into greater detail at the Planning Commission, and we included that detailed information in the PC packet, which was attachment 2. The plot plan is needed because, as you see in that yellow line, the current property boundaries for this combined site of 1 acre runs right through the middle of the proposed building. And you can't build a building across the property boundary, so hence the need for a lot consolidation. The environmental review for this entails that it's categorically exempt from CEQA, that there is no foreseeable possibility for this project to result in a significant environmental impact, and therefore is exempt. As I mentioned, the Planning Commission heard this item and adopted Resolution 11-19, recommending all actions that you're taking here before you tonight, including the general plan map amendment, zoning map amendment, lot consolidation, special use permit with design review, to allow the construction of the single-story medical office building on the subject site. So as conditions, the City Council may make required findings in support of the project for all required project approvals. That concludes my presentation, and open to any questions that you may have.
So at this time, it's time for questions. Are there any technical questions you might have? Aurelio?
I have one. This being so close to the airport, what effect does the airport have on this property?
So this is in Airport Safety Zone 6. That's the travel pattern there. So the overflight pattern. So it's not in the more restrictive zones like the runway approach or inner approach or sideline zones. Within that zone, there is non-residential intensity maximums for average and single acre. This proposed project is less than the average and single acre maximums for Safety Zone 6. So for example, for an average per Caltrans guidelines is anywhere from 200 to 300 people per acre. The proposed number of treatment stations and employees would result in roughly 55 people per acre. So well below the criteria handed out in Caltrans guidelines.
And the height restriction, we're well in it?
Oh, yes. Well far away, so that the proposed building is only 22 feet and in no way encroach within the airport Part 77 flight surface area.
My concern is if they put a cell tower or something, you know,
Sure.
add
Well,
height
that would be a
to it.
separate action, and that would require separate review.
Okay. My next question is in regards to it be rezoning from a industrial to a medical or
Institutional to allow for medical use, yes.
How much property tax is lost, if any at all? And what's the consequences of losing industrial property versus becoming an institutional property? And in the long term, if this venue doesn't work out for this medical center, is there any way that we can return back into industrial?
Well, if this medical office use, if the dialysis clinics run by DaVita were to close, it may open up to another medical office use or some other office use potentially with another use permit. And so there are other uses that would be allowed in the institutional zones that may be viable for the site. There's always the option to return it to an IP zone if there were a new applicant that wanted to use it for a different use.
Yeah, because my concern is, as I look at the site, I mean, it's really an industrial zone area. And it all depends on which side you want to put entrance door to it. If you put it on Hanger Way, it's really down a corridor that's just industrial, light industrial, and that if you put it in Nielsen, of course, it's going to butt up to the hospital. So that's one of my concerns of loss of, is there going to be any loss in tax revenue
Well, and
going
this-
to an institutional versus a industrial?
And if
I think- please.
if I could chime in really quickly, from a property tax standpoint, the property's been empty for 60 years or so, right? And so we're talking about some significant improvements that will be made to the site that'll certainly have some implications for the assessed value. More so than the zoning designation itself, it depends on whether it's a private or nonprofit operator. In this case, it'll be a private operator paying property tax on a property that'll be reassessed as part of the project, as they typically are. So the city will benefit from that increased property tax on a parcel that's been highly underutilized for quite some time, strictly from a property tax standpoint.
Actually, two parcels. But.
Trina?
On here, it says the applicant's presentation if necessary. I do have some questions of the applicant. Would there be anything before I'd ask those questions of them to present?
Well, I think they do have a presentation they have ready that they would like to give.
Okay,
so-
then my questions are of them, so I'll wait for that. Thank you.
Any other technical or clarifying questions? Councilwoman Garcia?
And I do need some clarification. We're being asked to make amendments to the general plan and to make zoning changes to allow a medical office building. Then it states that it's going to be a dialysis clinic. My question is, how was it determined that we needed a dialysis clinic in that medical building?
Well, I think I might defer that to the applicant to describe the services that they're providing and why they think it's needed here.
Okay.
Any other questions or technical questions or clarifying questions? Okay, are we going to allow the applicants to address us? Okay. Welcome.
Is this on? Okay, great. Thank you. My name is Mike Kahn with Meridian, representing the applicant. So thank you, Mayor, council members, Justin, Susie, thank you very much for the excellent presentation. My colleague Indrajit Obesekar is here to assist if necessary. So we originally submitted this application back in 2017. Unfortunately, due to some state legislation, we had to rescind our application. We've since passed those political hurdles, and we are excited to let you guys know we came to Planning Commission in July and received unanimous approval. So we believe we've resolved any issues with staff. We feel we've worked with staff collaboratively to gain support, to come up with a really nice project that's high-quality building, good-looking, and a good fit for the community. I'd like to just take a couple minutes to address a couple of the questions that were raised. There was a question, Councilmember Gonzalez, about cell phone towers. We do not plan to put one there. We have signed a long-term lease with DaVita, 15-year lease with several 5-year options. Of the 20 or 25 facilities we've done for them over the years, we've never put a cell phone tower on one of their buildings, nor have they asked us to. So very low probability that that would ever occur. Question regarding property tax. The current assessed value of the land is less than $1 million. Once we put improvements on the land and those improvements are in place, we anticipate the value of the land will be reassessed at over $8 million. So that will bring significant additional property tax to the city. There was a question, Ms. Garcia, about the need for dialysis. So the way that works, as our understanding is, the national dialysis operators receive data and reports nationally from the government about end-stage renal care disease, and that targets who's likely in a few years, which communities are going to need it. They look at nephrologists on where their cases are at, if there's several people in the population with, say, stage 3 renal disease. They're anticipating that these people will need dialysis. It takes 2 to 3 years from an idea to inception to put up a clinic like this. So the idea is to try to get ahead of it. And the city of Watsonville was targeted as an area that's going to need these services. So for right now, the hospital has a couple dialysis stations, but really if those chairs aren't available, your community members would have to drive maybe to Santa Cruz or somewhere very far away. So our goal is to put these life-saving treatment services in your community where we think they are needed. So just a little bit background on Meridian. We're a small to mid-sized medical office owner and operator. Some of our major clients consist of DaVita, Stanford Healthcare, UCSF Health, Hospital Corporation of America, and Kaiser. We try to work with really reputable systems and bring in high-quality projects to our communities. We pride ourselves in working with staff and communities to bring projects that people will love and respect and really need in their communities. I won't repeat some of the things Justin said about the site and the buildings, but I'll just touch on a few things. We do anticipate to add 15 to 20 full-time jobs, and I'd like to mention these are good jobs. These consist of nurses, facility administrators, biotech technicians, social workers, and medical directors. These are good, high-paying jobs, and there will be also a number of part-time jobs that will be added. Right now, the lot is underutilized as a vacant lot, and Mr. Adolfo Garcia and his wife have been nice enough to give us the time we need to present to you guys and obtain the necessary entitlements to increase, what we feel is the highest and best use for that land. As the city has stated in staff report, the proposed dialysis center does require a general plan amendment, zoning map amendment, lot consolidation with special use permit, and a design review. The extension of the adjacent zoning and general plan designations from the adjacent Watsonville Community Hospital site to the property is consistent with public policy and the goals of the City of Watsonville zoning code and general plan. We did look at several sites in and around the City of Watsonville over the last several years, and we really feel that the location and the synergy of this site that allows nephrologists to go back and forth from the hospital and complete their rounds really makes a lot of sense. It also is consistent with the Affordable Care Act to push facilities out of high acuity settings, which would be in the hospital, into outpatient settings in the community. That allows us to provide care at a more affordable cost and provides better access to care for everyone. I really think you're going to see a big push for that in the next few coming years. It's a huge political issue right now, and Meridian's pleased to be at the forefront of that to provide these services. All right, just one more thing here. Just a side note, we anticipate an approximate $10 million overall investment into the site. We do expect to spend significant dollars. During the cost of construction, we'll be hiring architects, engineers, construction workers. Those people will go into the community, eat lunch at the local businesses, use the local commerce. And then once the facility is up and operating, it's important to know that dialysis patients are generally brought to and from treatments often by their family. The treatments take 3 to 4 hours, so those family members will often stay in the City of Watsonville, shop, eat, use the local businesses, so it really does have a perpetuating effect that it breeds more business into the City of Watsonville. I think that's all I have. Staff did a great job, and I'd like to open up to any questions you may have.
Councilwoman Kaufman-Gomez?
Yes, thank you. I have a few questions here. The hours of operation, is this going to be a 7-day-a-week clinic?
No, ma'am. Currently, the way dialysis works is you receive treatment 3 days a week. So typically, it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, or a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. There are no treatments on Sundays.
So 6 days a week, and the varied hours as well, so that if somebody's working, they can still come in for a few hours after work if that's necessary. So how late would you think that you might be open?
That's correct. So generally, I like to think of it as 4-hour increments. So someone that wants to come in from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., they could have that shift. Or if they preferred midday, 10 to 2 p.m., 2 to 6, or there's what we call a nocturnal shift, which would be 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. So that allows someone to work a normal business hour day, receive their treatment at night, and live a normal life.
And the demographics, how many people do you think you'll be serving on a daily basis, and the demographics of where they're perhaps coming from?
Sure. So we are limited to the number of treatment stations we have. So this clinic is proposed with 24 treatment stations. So if we had, for instance, 3 shifts in a day, it would be 24 times 3. And then there's 2 peritoneal treatment rooms. Those are usually 1 to 2 hour. And a lot of that is aimed at training people for home treatment, which is an even lower cost of care. So we train these folks how to do it at home, and they receive their treatment overnight in the comfort of their own home. So we are maxed out at the number of people we can treat. Your question regarding demographics, dialysis is one of the only socialized medicine in the United States. The government has said no matter how sick you are, we will provide this treatment with Medicare funding or whatnot. So everyone can receive this treatment.
I guess I'm more referencing, do you expect a draw from Mid-County Santa Cruz, or is it just associated with the physicians pretty much on staff or on call or privileges with the Watsonville community?
Yeah, so I don't have the exact numbers of the people that they'll draw from within the city of Watsonville, but I do know people will drive up to 45 minutes each way for their treatment, and there is a high enough demand to justify just doing it for the community of Watsonville itself.
And are you looking to also contract with Salud and Kaiser for your clients as well or for their clients to come in and use the services?
Yeah, so that's actually something that DaVita does directly, and I don't unfortunately have the answer to that. I do know, generally speaking, that DaVita does have 50-50 JVs with Kaiser. They often do partner with them. That's correct.
Okay, good. And you mentioned something about political something or other in terms of the delay. What occurred or what's been remedied? What was that about?
There was an assembly bill, I can't recall the number, but it had to do with unionizing the nurses, and I'm not going to take a position one way or another on it, but it was voted down, and the theory was if those additional costs were to hit the operator, the reimbursements are fixed, and the model would have flipped upside down. It would have been unprofitable for any of the operators, which would be Fresenius Dialysis, DaVita, or Satellite Healthcare, to operate in California.
Yeah, because there was something that was about an initiative about dialysis. Is that what you're talking about, or in relation? Okay.
Correct, ma'am. Yes.
And then you had mentioned something about your the architects and whatnot. How much local labor would you anticipate using, not only creating jobs for the folks that are going to be providing the service on a regular basis, but what are you looking at in terms of any local resources for the construction jobs?
Yeah, it's a great question. We always look to hire local. We generally hire the general contractor, and then they go out to the subcontractors and vendors to locally source materials or workers. As you know, labor is in desperate demand right now, so it's really hard to get people to travel. So to get someone to come from, say, Modesto or the Central Valley out here to Watsonville probably won't happen. So we really are going to focus on the local workforce to build these projects.
My last question for you is, when do you anticipate getting this up and running in terms of completion? Is this like a 6-month project or a year out? When would you anticipate?
Yeah, if we're successful in getting the project approved tonight, we would move immediately into design and permitting. I estimate roughly that could take about 6 months from today, and then putting up the building would take roughly 10 to 12 months.
So maybe something at the end of 2020 for being able to provide the service?
Correct, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Councilman Hurst?
I had all the same questions that have already been asked here this evening, and I remember back in 17 when the proposal was initially promoted, and I wasn't particularly gung-ho about it at that time because I worried about the loss of an industrial vacant lot, although it wasn't really generating any jobs or tax money. But through the answers of Mr. Khan and the proposals that I've reviewed and written, I'm pretty well satisfied that all of the questions that I have already been answered, and so I'll yield the floor to anyone else here.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Hurst. I have a question for you. A few years ago, you were profiled on the John Oliver Last Week Tonight show, and the organization was pretty much scorched. There were accusations of, wasting drugs to build the government, of running, volume over quality. What has DaVita done to sort of remedy all these accusations that were made?
Yeah, just to clarify, the John Oliver piece you're referring to targeted DaVita, not Meridian.
Okay. Or just say the industry in general.
Specifically, their CEO, Ken Theory, who's no longer the CEO. I heard the piece. I generally disagree with it. It's not my position it's not my position to take a position on that. But I do believe DaVita is a great organization. Otherwise, I personally wouldn't want to work with them. I'm involved in a number of charities that we raise money to provide kidney screening for people that can't afford it all over the world. This really is a first-class organization. I have my choice to work with a number of dialysis operators, and I've chosen DaVita because I've met the people that work there. They believe in what they do. They help patients, and I think you just have to look at what people have to gain by slandering an organization like that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think they do have to gain?
Generally speaking, you follow the money. It's usually about unions and laborers and things like that that have an agenda of their own. So they'll target anyone that's kind of a private company that has stockholders to report to.
Okay. And I apologize for the confusion, the mistake on my part.
Sir.
Any other questions from council?
Public, maybe?
Huh?
The public?
Oh, yes.
I will make a comment that we do have a high diabetes rate that's here, and the end result in that is frequently that they have to provide or be into a dialysis situation. So we are looking at this as something as a viable resource that's necessary in this community, unfortunately.
Thank you. Okay. At this moment, we will now open it up to public comments. Anyone wishing to address council on this issue is welcome to do so at this moment. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Philippe Noel. I serve as a first lieutenant in the Civil Air Patrol Watsonville Squadron, 13th in the California Wing. I also serve here at the airport as a certified flight instructor, so I have the privilege of serving the community, teaching aerospace and aviation skills to a lot of our young people. One of the biggest things that I'd like to invite the council to consider today is that it's all too easy in policy to look at numbers and look at figures, and it's a very responsible way to plan policy and where we're going to move the city next. But there's a reason it's very close to my heart that really brings me to share this with you folks. I went through the hardship of being a caregiver at 16. My mother had a very serious illness, and it was pretty difficult hardship for the family. And one of the lessons that I learned is it's not as simple as it sounds to simply have the support that you have with your family, your friends, your church group, your community, like a lot of the folks that we see here in Watsonville. There's also a very important need for access to care in the community. It's very important. And when you put yourself in the shoes of loved ones and family members of patients in Watsonville that might find themselves with long wait times at Watsonville Community Hospital, a very fine facility, but like our gentleman just said earlier, there are certain limitations to what kind of patient care that they can handle at once. We're all no strangers to the traffic that we can see on the one and how long it could take to get to an appointment up in Santa Cruz, how long that can take as well. So there's a real opportunity here that we can truly serve and open up the doors to Watsonville. This is right off the freeway. As a flight instructor, I can assure you folks that from the airport's point of view, this is no factor to the upwind or downwind traffic coming from the most used runway, which is 20, and the incoming approaches for runway 2. And also as an educator, I do have the privilege of getting to teach a vocation and skill. And so that really reminds me to consider the fact that there are a lot of jobs that we can see at this facility that are going to require RNs, CNAs, technicians. And some of these trades come out of vocational programs. And what better way to have young people lined up to have mentorship opportunities and have employment opportunities locally here in Watsonville. So for those reasons, I'd really invite you folks to consider a little bit beyond the numbers and beyond the figures to really see what kind of a positive impact this can make on a lot that's been vacant for 60 years in a pretty well-situated area, right next to the hospital where you can find other medical offices as well. So considering the shoes of what it's like for the Watsonville residents and those of greater Santa Cruz County, there could be a really big difference that could be made here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yes, City Council, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Mr. Mayor, I saw the John Oliver program as well. And it was with great relief that I saw that the Board of Directors of DaVita threw over the CEO who needed to be tossed over. And I want to remind our friends here, our two friends here, that labor unions built this country. They gave us the 5-day week, 40-hour week. They gave us paid vacation and sick leave. They created pathways for people to reach the middle class. I'm a proud 36-year member of the teachers union. I also want to point out that, and this is especially for Ari Parker. Ari, I have 3 people where I live on Bronte Avenue that are receiving dialysis. My next door neighbor, Ed, had to go get dialysis and still does in Morgan Hill. That's the closest place he can get it. Sometimes he has to drive himself. Sometimes I drive him. He was not in that facility for more than a month while I took care of his cats, cleaned his house, and weeded his yard. Folks, we need a facility, even if it's by DaVita or whoever, we need to have a dialysis facility in the city. As somebody pointed out, we have many people who are suffering from diabetes type 2. I'm borderline. And there are a lot of people who have to have their kidneys washed because they don't have necessarily an access to a surgeon or a physician or a person to do that on hand, and they may not keep cranberry juice in the refrigerator, which I recommend, but I'm not a doctor. So yes, we do need this facility. The picture of it was the artist presentation is pretty good, but you know what? We can always keep an eye on this facility. And remember, we do have a real proactive county grand jury. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. You can.
Buenas
There you go.
noches.
Buenas noches.
Good evening. I have a question before I address you. I came to looking for somebody, but I checked the oral communications. Will I be able to address another issue after this one, if I wish to do it?
If you stick around, I will
Yes.
permit you to address. Yeah,
Okay,
bring up an
because
issue.
if that is not the case, I'm going to have to make a decision right away of, do I present this and then other later? But the other one is the one affects me directly to me, so that's.
If
Would you allow me to?
if you
Okay.
stay, I will allow you to
Thank
address
you.
this.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Estrada. Okay, most of you know me. My name is Maria Luisa Ramirez Perez, but in the community, I'm an activist known as Maria Perez. And tonight, I just happened to hear the issue about the dialysis, and I've been in the community for 32 years, almost 33 years, since 1986, basically. And I'm glad that we're going to have this facility. The only concern that I have, and I heard the issue that I want to address you to at the moment that you allow me so, is the cellular part of it, but I'm going to leave that aside. And the only concern that I have about this particular issue is the union and the salaries of the workers. I'm not affiliated with the health, other than being a patient, with the health people, but I don't want to have to advocate in few years from now, and I hope the city took care of that please, hopefully they will pay good salaries, minimum $50 an hour or more to those who studied all that kind of or whatever is pertinent to pay them, but please don't force us activists to have one more issue to go and fight for, because it's not fair to us who don't have the money to fight for one more issue to fight for. So I hope that you understand what I'm talking about, because I am pro-union, but more than being pro-union, I'm for fairness, justice, freedom and liberty and good life for everyone. Just like the Constitution says, happiness, pursue happiness and all of those things that don't need to be just ideals, but actually something that will really make true and that they happen for everyone. And that was my only concern about this issue. And tell me when I can address you to the...
I will let you know. Thank you. Any other member of the public wishing to address the council on this specific issue? Seeing none, I will close the public participation section of the item, and I will ask for a motion.
Also move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor made by Councilwoman Kaufman-Gomez, seconded by Councilman Hernandez. Councilwoman Kaufman-Gomez, if you wanted to.
I just think that for our particular community, we've been without a lot of the medical services and providers that we've needed here. I'm getting a lot more of that as I'm a member of the Health Trust as we're discussing the hospital situation we currently have. And we have seen a lot of the commercial insurance agents and the medical services being brought to town, I think, as a result of the affordable health care. And we need to make sure that this community is considered for the access to the best quality care that we can provide them with. And this is one of those components that we need in this community available as that resource. Highway 1 is a parking lot, we know that already, and it does a disservice to this community that we have to then impose them to be through that before they can actually get the care that we should be able to have available and to be able to provide to them. And we know that this is going to be 75 patients a day is what I'm looking at here, and that's 75 more members of the community that can get the resource without having to leave town for it. And I support being able to have that additional component of our medical need met for this community for this project.
Thank you. Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. I am with Councilwoman Kaufman-Gomez. Not only the investment, because I went out and I drove by it, and then I got out of the car and walked around, and it's a lot that's been there forever, and to know that we're going to have up to $10 million invested in that, and that's one thing. But the other part of it is, and I do represent a lot of seniors, and as Steve said very clearly, in our neighborhood, it's something that people use a lot, and they have to go out of town for it. And so I'm really excited that we're going to have access to this quality care here in Watsonville, because going down Highway 1 is the worst possible experience, and then having to go up over the hill, too, the same thing. I really appreciated what Mr. Philippe Noel talked about, and thank you for sharing some of your history and what you had to go through. But having models and people who, as a job resource here within our community, another part of what our students can grow up and look at as a career, I think is great. So I'm very much in favor of this. I think it's wonderful.
Excellent. Thank you. Councilman Hurst.
Thank you, Mayor. I was a hard sell on this because I really kind of hated to see an acre of industrial land go away. But after the presentation that I received and the walk around the lot a few times and the vacantness of the lot and realizing there were no jobs on the lot and there was very little revenue generated by the lot, 11,000 square foot and 273 square foot building sounded pretty good. And it looks pretty good on paper, too. I hope it'll look as good in person. You know, the potential value is there. The need in the community, I think, has been pretty well established. And so there will be jobs there, and there will be value there. And so a modern design with a nice building, it could be used for all kinds of stuff if it doesn't work out for this purpose. But now we're going to have not only beer, wine, cider, and telescopes on Hangar Way. Folks will be able to get quality medical service there, too, and we always look forward to that. It'll also provide some new eyes and ears on Hangar Way, and that'll be a safety improvement as well. So I say let's move along here and approve this thing.
Okay.
I'm ready for the vote.
One more thing, if I could point out, I did get a chance to talk to a number of the neighbors up there, and you did receive a letter from Nomi of Nomi's Fabrics, and she gives it an endorsement. And I didn't find one person on Hangar Way that had an objection.
Thank you, Councilman Hurst. Okay, barring any other comments or questions, we have a motion on the floor made by Councilwoman Kaufman-Gomez, seconded by Councilman Hernandez, to approve staff recommendations for items 8, 5, A to D. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's on your agenda. And Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready.
Kaufman Gomez,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Hurst,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Estrada.
Yes, motion passes. And I want to thank our visitors for your presentation. We look forward to this much-needed service in our community. And Watsonville welcomes you, and we hope you provide the people of Watsonville with the care that they deserve. So, any other comments?
Yeah, I know we have a second hearing on this as well, so I'm sure that we'll see it probably likely on the consent agenda in 30 days' time or next council meeting. Next council meeting? Okay.
Next council meeting, okay.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to item 8B, consideration of taxi rate increase for the city of Watsonville requested by Watsonville Transportation Incorporated. So, hi, Officer Sims, how's it going?
It's going all right.
All right, whenever you're ready.
Last bit on the agenda tonight.
Yeah. Save the best for last.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Tom Sims. I'm the Assistant Chief of Police. In April of this year, the city received a letter from Courtesy Cab requesting City Council approve a rate increase for taxi service in the city of Watsonville. Now, the letter was forwarded to me, and I was asked to add this to the agenda for the public hearing, and that's what we're doing here tonight. As stated in the attached letter from Courtesy Cab, taxi rates in the city have not been changed since 2008, and even though costs have increased. The letter described the many challenges taxi industry has faced over the past decade, including rise in operational costs, vehicle maintenance, licensing and insurance costs, and competition with ride-sharing companies such as Uber and Lyft. This is why the taxi industry is asking for this rate increase. One item of note that you'll see in the staff report is that there's a new law that came over this past year, Assembly Bill 1069. It allows cities to create what's called a maximum rate, which is what you see in the report. The maximum rate affects the initial drop charge, mile rate, and hourly waiting time. This is meant to allow taxi companies flexibility in their pricing to better compete with the ride-sharing companies. So I have spoken with both our two licensed taxi businesses in the city, Courtesy Cab, Mr. Richard Camperud, and Yellow Cab, Mr. Jose Bonilla. Both of them told me they'd be here tonight. I know Mr. Camperud's here tonight to answer any specific questions you may have, since they are the subject matter experts on this topic. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Do we have any clarifying and technical questions? Councilwoman Garcia.
I understand that Courtesy Cab and Yellow Cab are the only two taxi companies that we have. What I don't know is, because it said that the letter, I believe what it said is that the letter that came to us was from Wattsville Transportation, Inc., and I don't know what that is.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Richard Camperud. Watsonville Transportation, Inc. Is Courtesy Cab's a DBA of that. It's a division of the corporation. So I'm the president of Watsonville Transportation, Inc. And I run Courtesy Cab.
And you run, but do you run Yellow Cab too?
No.
No. So this request, it's being asked by Watsonville Transportation, and who does Courtesy Cab, but it would also impact Yellow Cab.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Kaufman-Gomez?
Sure. Lyft, Uber, I'm sure that, we have these method of alternative transportation resources, and it's become a service rather than a commodity for people having their own vehicles. How does this affect you in terms of, obviously, you haven't come to us, was it for more than a decade, I think, if I saw the records on here. I think we're way behind the times in terms of what we need to do that's equitable along the service industry for the transportation needs. And I don't know, maybe technical could there be something about at least a CPI so that they don't have to come back or wait 10 years to come back? Is there something else that could be necessary or could apply to allow them to have a little bit more of, what goes on with the industry instead of every decade coming back and asking for a bit of a raise? I don't know.
So Mr. Camperud and I actually discussed that, and the city attorney and I have kind of discussed that topic as well. Because of that new law, it has made some changes to allow a little more flexibility in the pricing. But because of that law also, we're going to have to take a pretty comprehensive look at our taxi ordinance and in which case we can take a look at that topic and see what we can do to help with that process.
Would that conversation also include any of the Uber or Lyft, as they're also a transportation service?
Well, they're different, right? Because the taxi service is very regulated. Uber and Lyft are technically ride-sharing companies, although there's, it's a constant battle with that. And
taxis are one of the very few, if not the only, local regulated transportation entities in California left. School buses, some agricultural buses, but they are it. So they have the hand of local government on them, and this new state law was designed to loosen that so that they can effectively compete with the Ubers and the Lyfts, because they can provide things that those folks don't, and vice versa. So the new law will allow us to come back and comply with the new law, and in the meantime, this operator will have a chance to compete, not to exceed a price, with the Ubers and Lyfts of the world, whereas before they were required to charge a certain rate. And so this gives them the opportunity to make more money, perhaps, or lose less money, depending on how successful they are, and depending on the circumstances, charge maybe less than that maximum rate if they deem appropriate to do so. The whole original idea of the local government regulating taxis was way back and a long time ago, and I believe the public policy was to make sure that taxis were making enough and not competing upon themselves to cannibalize each other. And the industry and the world has changed a lot since then, and I think this new state law is recognizing that. And Mr. Camperud, I've seen him here at council meetings over the years. He's probably knows as much about this business as anybody in the near region, and he may have
I've had
different
Courtesy Cab for 25 years, though.
Yeah, so he may know more about,
I've
and
been
I
in
may be
Watsonville 55
misspeaking, but I
years.
think that's the idea.
Well, I certainly want to make sure that cost of living is evaluated here. 10 years is not telling me that you've even had a cost of living if we haven't even made those changes here within the city limits.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And over the 10 years since gas and everything's gone up, we've absorbed all the cost to where, my drivers all live here too, and they have to pay rent, et cetera, and
Do you feel that this change is equitable to keep up with what the cost of living is? I mean, 10 years and was it 50 cents? It seemed to be very modest on the change here. Is that?
well, yeah, I didn't want to go too high so that way it doesn't affect people too much, but, I figured a buck or two more for a ride will help us out a little bit and help the drivers out, maybe they might make $20 more a day.
Well, and the thing is, it's up to, so it gives you some of that flexibility as well. I just want to make sure that, there is an equitable, living here, and that you don't have to wait 10 years before you get your cost of living on things, and that this is a service that we can still provide this community with, that there's a need for.
It's a very hard service to keep going, with the cost of everything.
Well, I definitely want to make sure that we can go back and circle the wagon on that to be sure that we have something that allows some perpetuity flexibility there, instead of waiting 10 years to come back for a 50-cent raise. I definitely want to make sure that it's right and that you can still provide that service for our community here.
Agreed. Any other comments, technical questions? Councilwoman Parker.
I just wanted to comment on the 10% discount for seniors that you added that in. That wasn't something that you have currently.
I've always gave 10% discount. We don't go 10%. If it's a $7, $8 fare, we knock a buck off. So that's like 20%.
But you don't have to right now.
Well, we do though. We do.
I know. I'm just making that point. You don't have to, and that's nice. And I see that you have that in here. And I am in agreement with Councilwoman Kaufman Gomez that. And I don't know how we would do that, because this is here right now, or would you go and have further discussions and bring something back in the future that would regulate it so it doesn't come back 10 years from now, that it's every 2 years or every 5 years, and then it's built in.
If it came back in a couple of years and the price goes up, I don't know if the people could afford it. That's the thing.
No, I understand.
I would just say that, these rates were created by Mr. Camperud, who is our subject matter expert. But I explained to him that I'm happy to come in front of council anytime, every year for as long as I'm here, and help him out where I can. But again, these rates were created by him to the best of his knowledge and ability with that industry.
Councilman Gonzalez.
I have a technical question or clarification. Is there anything stopping us from increasing it right now? The number?
Yes. It's not been noticed in the public hearing. That'd be one reason. And another reason, if you're going to do that, it might be appropriate to get perhaps some additional information. And during this process that we've been talking about before the end of the year, I expect, all those things can be considered. So you can't approve something that the public doesn't know about, and the public doesn't know about you increasing it beyond what is in the publication. So if somebody would have objected if they knew it was that high, they don't know about it because you're doing it tonight without any notice. That's the idea.
Okay.
You'll see it come back, and you can talk to Assistant Chief Sims about your views of what the rate should be.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Okay. I'd like to open it up to the public now for questions or comments. Welcome.
Yes, here I am back again. Don't use taxis very often, but I think 11 years without an increase is a long, long time. You'll notice he's not dressed like the founder of Uber, and of course that man is a nutcase. My son drives part-time for Uber, hates the company, the founder, the board. It's a terrible organization to work for, and he's very sorry he has to do it, but his first job doesn't pay enough in this economy. I really believe that, yes, it hasn't been noticed, properly noticed, but after it has been noticed, let's give the taxi cab drivers a break and let's raise their 50 cents or $1, whatever per ride. Thank you for the 10% discount because I'm senior, and we appreciate that greatly. We need to recognize also that in many cities, taxi cab drivers are unionized. There's that booga booga word, union. Ooh, scary, socialism. Well, the reason they're unionized is because they have to stick together, because that's what makes America work. And it creates a middle class. So, yes, I wholeheartedly support your request for an increase, and I thank you for your service. And if my car breaks down and I need to call you, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public on this issue, on this item? Yeah, absolutely. If you have any comments on this issue, we welcome your comments on this issue.
Okay, thank you. Again, my name is Maria Perez, and I think that Ms. Kaufman Gomez is making good, sensible questions in this issue, and maybe it will be a good idea to do something. I'm more for being efficient rather than having to have this visit on us all over and over and over again. That's ridiculous and losing time for everybody, losing taxes and everything, time, money, energy, and all of it, and psychologically draining. So please, what I understood from what I heard is that you're going to come back with a better analysis. Is that true? As a city council, somebody's going to analyze and really see, and apparently Mr. Smith, the attorney, is saying that you guys need to give some time to the public, for the public to bring comments, because we don't know. I mean, I just heard about he wanting to raise the taxi cab rate, and I don't use his services, but if I was using them, I maybe be concerned because I don't have that much money. But that's me, or anybody. Thank you.
City Attorney, you want to clarify or just make sure she's got it right?
Chief Sims is going to come back to the council sometime, probably before the end of this year, with a comprehensive taxi ordinance. Depending on what the industry and Mr. Sims discuss, they might come back with an increased rate. They may come back and recommend a COLA. They may come back and recommend something else. We don't know what they're going to recommend. At that time, the council will be able to address rates, and they will be able to address the taxi ordinance, which has such items in it as background checks and drug testing and all sorts of other things.
Mr. City Manager.
Mayor and Council, if I could just add, Assistant Chief Sims mentioned this earlier, but really tonight's action as a two-step process, and we're trying to be responsive to our taxi industry that's here in town. It's not to say that there aren't opportunities to take a larger look at the ordinance in the future. Obviously, the industry is going through significant changes and will most likely continue to. But tonight, the focus is wanting to be responsive to a request we received from one of our private operators here in town with a commitment to be looking at this in the future.
Councilman Hernandez. Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
With that said, I'll move the taxi rate increase.
I'll second.
I'll give it to
Give it to him.
Aurelio. Yeah.
He can take the taxi second.
So we have a motion on the floor made by Councilman Hernandez, seconded by Councilman Gonzalez, to approve the resolution establishing new increased taxi cab rates and fares for taxi services in the city of Watsonville. Any other comments or deliberations before we vote? Councilman Hurst, and then Councilwoman Kaufman Gomez.
Well, thank you again, Mayor. I'm glad we're having this discussion tonight because it doesn't come up very often, as you can see. 10, 11 years is a long time to refresh ourselves as to what it was. But I do remember back in the 90s, we had this discussion, and it was a vigorous discussion because Lyft and Uber hadn't been invented yet. And so it's good to reflect upon where we're at today and what we can do to make the community a better place for everybody.
Thank you, Councilman Hurst. Councilwoman Kaufman Gomez.
I just wanted to know whether, with that particular motion, that we should also include that it comes back in our motion, that it comes back with a more robust report, or that it's just noted that we do so. I don't know if it needs to be part of a friendly on the
Mr. City
emotion or not.
Manager, you want to?
Well, it's going to come back, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think an additional action is required for that to happen.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or deliberations? Councilwoman Parker?
Just talking about taxi cabs in general, I'm glad we have that service in our small city, because I've been in DC and San Francisco and other bigger cities, and that's a norm there. But here, I've taken a taxi cab a couple times, and it's always been an emergency when that happens, and they're there, and I appreciate that.
Well said. Any other comments? Councilwoman Kaufman Gomez?
Yeah, and I know that the policy is intended because this was something that's all we had for that service, and it needed the regulation, and the industry obviously has taken off different in terms of this being the service. And as a policymaker, we shouldn't be setting a policy of what your wage is. It's based off of the market demand. So it's unfortunate you're still caught into old policy when there is competition out there and variety of means of transportation. So it's almost like, do we really need to continue with one industry because of old policy when times have changed so significantly?
Okay, any other comments? All right, we're ready to vote. We have a motion on the floor made by Councilman Hernandez, seconded by Councilman Gonzalez, and it's the resolution establishing new increased taxi cab rates and fares for taxi service in the city of Watsonville. Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready.
Kaufman Gomez,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Hurst,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Estrada.
Yes, motion passes, and we want to thank everyone who came out and provided us with information for this item. Thank you.
And we do need a lot more dialysis, because a lot of my customers go to dialysis on 40 Penny, and the chairs are full, in Capitola too. I take people to Capitola, and there's a lot of call for that.
How they
So
get
that's
there?
a good deal on that.
Agreed.
I don't know about that company, but the city needs dialysis.
Agreed.
They need empty chairs is what they need.
We need everyone to play their part, for sure. We need dialysis, we need transportation, we need insurances,
Yeah,
right?
I transport a lot of wheelchairs and people like that. and-
Fantastic, thank you.
Cool, thank you, have a good
All
night.
right. We'll move on to, we're gonna come back a little bit and have Ms. Perez address us. You can come up.
Oh, no? Okay, good.
Yeah, and how many minutes?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. You have 3 minutes for your public comments.
I don't think I want to take that long, but I just want to raise a concern. My name is Maria Perez again. I am in District Number 1 with my council member representative is Felipe Fernandez. And I want to address him, but I want to address the entire city because my concern is the following. I live in Westlake, 15 Westlake, number 501. So I live in the 5th floor, and my roof is the roof of the entire Resetar Hotel, the the Hallmark. Beautiful building, by the way. Not the best place to live at, though, but it's the best for me at this point. The concern that I have is that it happens to be the case that about 3 years ago, I've been living there 7 years. And 3 years ago, I learned that we have, on top of us, towers for the cellular phones of Verizon, but Verizon cannot provide us with Wi-Fi nor phones. We're being killed by whatever, and none of us thought about that. Or you didn't think about that, even though I was here about 3 years ago with a bunch of folks saying, no cellular phones on so-and-so vicinity. But it's okay to have it where people are mentally ill, sick, the bottom of the scale almost. Is it okay? Fortunately, and I'm telling you, I have a disability called depression plus caused by chronic pain, neuropathy, or whatever they call it, because I had an accident at work. Okay, but I'm not going to go into that story. I'm just going to say that all of a sudden I'm finding myself being killed by secondhand smoke, because I don't smoke, I don't drink, but I smoke all the things that my fellow citizens smoke, including heroin and crack, whatever. And on top of that, I get this whatever waves stuff. I'm starting to experience headaches even though I take my medications as they are prescribed. I'm supposedly fine, and I just wonder, will you take that into consideration to check on it and see that if I'm going to be killed, at least we can get Wi-Fi? You know, we don't get Wi-Fi even. It is so expensive for us that only live with the one person that has the most money gets $1,200 a month. I get $1,100 a month to live with. I'm going to be killed.
Thank you for your comments. And your card, yes, please. We want to make sure that we'll have somebody from the city reach out to you and address your concerns and make sure they answer every question that you have concerning your living situation currently. Thank you. Okay. And so we will move on to item 9, presentations and oral communications continued. Item 9B, oral communications from the council. And we'll begin with Councilman Hernandez, and then we'll make our way around.
All right. So I attended several things, one of them being the chili cook-off. I was the judge at the chili cook-off. The mayor had a very, very great chili, the best chili.
Thank you.
But he didn't win, unfortunately. Too many onions. No, it was a great community event. It was a charity event, the charity cook-off at Aldina's Realty. I also attended the Apple City hard cider grand opening. It was also on that same day. Previously, I attended the breastfeeding event here at the Plaza. And the week before, I attended the AARP Livable Communities presentation. I had been following them on Facebook and some of the posts they have been talking about. And, you know, they've been talking about some of the placemaking in downtown, you know, some of the putting chairs in your downtown, seating, that kind of stuff. So I've been really following it on a lot of stuff that they're talking about to create a downtown that's livable and that's age-friendly. But I like all the stuff that they're talking about walkable communities. But there's 8 different components, too, that they're talking about. It'd be great if we can actually do like have a community, like a city presentation from them about it as well. And the final thing is I want to invite folks to an event that I'm having. We're having a first-time home buyers fair that we've kind of had one before. This time we're also going to include kind of like a renters fair as well. It's happening on Thursday, October 3rd, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. here at the Civic Plaza. That's Thursday, October 3rd, here at the Civic Plaza, the First-Time Homebuyers Fair and Renters Fair. If anyone is interested, if anyone is looking for a home, either this year or next year, or looking for a new affordable rental place, be sure to be there on Thursday, October 3rd.
Location?
From 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. There'll be 2 different presentation, 2 different times for the presentations, one at 6 and one at 8.
Thank you, Councilman Hernandez.
Location?
Here at the city, 275 Main Street at the Civic Plaza.
Thank you. Councilman Hurst.
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of water under the bridge since we met last time, but let's walk down memory lane very briefly. Strawberry Fest, a knockout in the community right downtown. National Night Out, very successful, I thought. Music in the Plaza has been going on. That's been tremendous as well. The Museo soft opening for the artist community that's going to dress up the parking garage, that's great. The chili cook-off was really good. I thought you had a winning entry. I don't know what happened there. I think, the judges need to, well, I've been a judge before, and I know how it goes. But after that, we really got off with the Testicle Festival, and that was their biggest crowd yet. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff coming up in the future, but I just wanted to reflect upon the last month or so before we jump into it with both feet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hurst, and I appreciate you acknowledging the injustice that was done to me, but.
Going to fix that next year.
Thank you. Councilwoman Parker.
And now I feel bad I didn't go, so I couldn't vote for you. I want to use my time to talk about not some of the wonderful things that have happened in the last month or so in Watsonville, but to talk about a lady who usually sits right there, and we spoke about her at the beginning of our meeting. Her name is Rhea Hart. I've known Rhea since I was a kid. My mom, in her high-heeled shoes, and she couldn't wear jeans in those days, went out on strike because of Rhea. And we're talking about justice, not just for chili, but justice for teachers as well. Rhea had a great sense of humor about everything. I take, my mom's been a great mentor. My dad was a great mentor, and I've had other people in my profession as a teacher. But Rhea Hart was like super mentor for so many people. And she inspired people to not only go into teaching, but to do civic, service as we do. I was a parks commissioner with her, and she was my library commissioner too, as I was honored to be able to appoint her. To the day she passed away, her brain was working, and she would have been out telling us what so and what for. But our bodies at 90, almost 97, she's a couple months shy, kind of give up. And I just want to say, without her, I probably wouldn't be here. I probably wouldn't have done some of the things in my life that push me out into the community to volunteer, because she had a family of 5 kids, and yet she spent in Santa Cruz, and yet she spent so much time here in Watsonville. So I just want to say that, and in the spirit of Rhea, the beginning of the school year has started off wonderfully, and we're looking forward to it, and we appreciate the police department, who's talked about really looking at the safety of walkers as they go to their school sites, and thank you. That's it.
That was beautifully said. Councilwoman Parker. Councilman Hurst?
If I could just follow up with that tribute to Rhea for a minute. Rhea was responsible for a lot of people getting ahead in this community, getting an education, getting active in the community. And if it hadn't been for Rhea, I probably wouldn't be here either, because she came over to my house one night after a late school board meeting and said, "Hurst, you should run for city council. You've represented the teachers. You know how to talk into a microphone. You could do this job." And sure enough, thanks to Rhea, I've been doing the job.
Well said. She will be missed, and I know she loved watching us on TV, and I hope she's still watching us today. Councilwoman Garcia?
Well, as you already heard from my colleagues, we were on vacation from city council meetings, but we were not on vacation from the community. Many of you, including myself, are still healing from the murders that took place in Gilroy at the Garlic Festival. I attended the vigil in Gilroy and spoke to my friend Fred Tovar, who is a council member for Gilroy. I also spoke to the city manager, who, by the way, actually attended school here in Watsonville at Notre Dame and freshman at Watsonville High School. I told them that on Saturday at 11 o'clock, we were going to have a prayer and moment of silence at the beginning of our Strawberry Festival for the Gilroy victims. Fred agreed to come and say a few words. However, that didn't happen because that morning the council had to meet to talk about all the possible lawsuits that might occur. Nonetheless, he did arrive later with a couple of Gilroy residents that were part of the Gilroy Foundation, and they bought T-shirts to sell, if we could sell T-shirts for them to contribute to the foundation. And thank you to Nick and staff. They were selling T-shirts. However, what I was told is that many of the people were just giving donations and actually didn't take the T-shirts. I don't know how much money was raised, but nonetheless, that money is going to go to the Gilroy Foundation, and the foundation is going to distribute that money to the murder victims for their funerals and to the 12 people that were injured for medical expenses. And I just wanted to say I am just so proud that we did this, because this is an example of Watsonville being a good neighbor. And I too want to add a note about Ria. I first met Ria, I think, in 1983 as a non-tenured teacher. And she gave me some good advice in terms of my First Amendment rights and freedom to speak. In other words, I could go speak to the board, Pajaro Valley Unified School Board, and I would not get fired if I said bad things to them. But most recently, at the age of 96, last year for my campaign, she called 25 people to make sure that they voted for me. And so I need to thank her, and I did thank her, in terms of I'm here again this term because Ria helped me get elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Kaufman-Gomez?
Yes, thank you. I could go into a lot of events that are coming on in this community, but I'm hoping that we have them sort of posted on a calendar here that's a main event. What I'm going to go into in terms of telling this community is we are at a very important juncture about our community hospital. I am the representative for the city that's on the Pajaro Valley Community Health Trust. And we have hired several consultants to do what they could possibly do within a very small window of time for the due diligence regarding the purchase of the hospital in the process of executing the first right of refusal. We are at the very end of that number, or the day count, which is actually by the end of this week. Tomorrow we will have another board meeting in which we'll discuss all of the findings that this particular team has gone through the process of working with all of the logistics and the finances. And we are up against a very, very serious monumental decision here. And we know that the community wholeheartedly wants to bring this back into this community. And we're looking at all of the resources, no stone unturned, about what it's going to take, what we have for partnerships, and what the fiscal accountability is going to be for us to be able to do this. So please understand that whatever the outcome of this decision, it's based on as much as we possibly can gather within the last 40 days and working with our professionals. On top of that, the professionals that we're working with have historically been involved, or their firm has been involved, in the action of the hospital sale in 1998. So we have a depth of knowledge of our professionals that are hired as consultants to do the due diligence and to support the trust in the discovery part of the right of first refusal. So there will be a decision that will be reached after our board meeting tomorrow. And it will have a ripple effect of whether this goes through or not, based on as much information as can be gathered as quickly as possible. I want to make sure that the community is aware that 45 days is barely enough time to even sell a house, let alone figure out where all of the means of the funding is going to come from for not only this purchase, but for the investment in the infrastructure that we need, the type of financing that we need to come up with, and the means of being able to show that we have the viability of being able to afford whatever financing and means we have to support this transaction. So this is not a very, this is probably one of the most difficult decisions that I will be going for this vote and this board to take, that will affect this community for many years and for the services that we need to have available in this community. So there will be more information coming out of that afterwards. A lot of it, what's frustrating is a lot of it is having to remain confidential because of quorums, the limited amount of information the quorum allows us to release. So bear with us on this process, let you know that it's in good hands with the consultants to ensure whatever this decision, it's the best decision that can be, or the result of this, the discoveries that we're going through right now. So anticipate getting some update on that later on this week.
Thank you for the update, and we thank you for your work on that committee, on that board. Trina,
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Gonzalez?
Good evening. I'm going to keep mine brief. We were on vacation, so I did leave the country for a while, and I did come back half-charged. But I did attend the Strawberry Festival on the last day. One of the things that I was really glad to see was that between me and Francisco, we helped establish the arts tent at the Strawberry Festival, and we were able to see some new artists out there getting the opportunity to give exposure, and we hope to continue that hopefully in the following years, giving them the opportunity to continue to present their art to the community. On the other thing is on Ria. Ria touched all of us. She encouraged me when I was a parent addressing the Pajaro Valley Unified School District. She said, "Don't stop. Keep letting them know what needs to happen." And then when she heard that I was running for city council, she supported me wholeheartedly. And she was a big influence for us in the community. With that, I'll leave you off with September 19th, an event that's going to be happening, something that I've helped put together. It's the symphony and some, the Wapango is going to be presented at the plaza. It's on September 19th at 6 to 8, and it's music in the park, and I'm calling it Música para el Corazón, is music for the heart. And so I hope everybody goes out. And Pajaro Valley Unified School District student body will be also performing that day, and there'll be an ensemble with all of them at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for all your work on helping our local artists and for the music that you helped brought to the community. I just want to let people know of 3 events that are coming up on September 25th, and then Mr. City Manager, correct me if I'm wrong. We have a grand opening for Regeneración, Pajaro Valley Climate Action, and I know there's been a lot, the rainforests, the glaciers, and just know that climate change is affecting the Pajaro Valley as well. So we hope to see you there. Plaza Vigil, 11 a.m. And we're having a beach cleanup this Saturday at 9:30 a.m. at Manresa Park. This was started by a local resident that really wanted to do something positive for her community. So we're supporting her on this effort. We have a bike ride, right, Felipe, this Friday? And it's a resource fair as well. I hope, hopefully you guys can make it out. It's always a beautiful thing to see so many people riding their bikes around town, enjoying life, enjoying music. And speaking of enjoying life, and to kind of piggyback on what Councilwoman Garcia said, Gilroy really, it touched all of us because it was in our backyard pretty much, And first off, I just want to thank my fellow councilors, council members, and the city staff for showing that courage, in the face of fear. And more than anything, just thank the people for going out to all the public events and showing, showing the role that we're not afraid and that we're going to live our lives. And I was happy to see people at the Strawberry Festival, at the PV Pride event, at the music festival that we had at the fairgrounds, and just all the events in between. Thank you to the people for continuing to be out there, and I'm going to see you guys out there for Fiestas Patrias and Christmas and any other event that we have for the people of Watsonville. So thank you to everyone for your leadership and your courage. And so we will move on to item 10, emergency items added to the agenda. There were none. We will move on to item 11, requests and scheduling future agenda items. Are there any requests from council at this moment? Councilman Hernandez?
I don't know if I should refer to parks or not, but can we have that AARP 8 strategies to age-friendly communities?
Mr. City Manager?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other requests? Okay. We will move on to item 12, adjournment. Thank you all for being with us until 9:30. It's kind of early for us. So enjoy the rest of the night. Drive safe, and we will see you in a few weeks.